Chapter 11:11. While they were still fretting over what to do, the other side actually said, "No deployment, it doesn't matter. Sure to win. Invincible with me? F***CK, is the gap so huge? Can't you be more arrogant?" That night, the Golden Cauldron sect held a meeting until midnight. Everyone still felt helpless, unable to advance or retreat. Only one of the higher-ups came up with a countermeasure that seemed to give them some hope. Everyone went up and found an opportunity to self-detonate, taking the opponent's mystical beast and their opponent down with them at once. This could ensure a draw. However, only the Golden Cauldron 3 elders were qualified and capable of accomplishing this. If all 3 elders self-detonated, they could get 3 draws. But what about the 4th and 5th matches? What could the Golden Cauldron sect rely on to fight for a draw or a victory? When it came to the Ascension battle of lower-class celestial luck banners, the residents of 9 Supremes no longer needed to win all 5 matches. As long as they could gain an advantage in the number of matches won, they would win. 3 draws were not very useful. Moreover, the 3 draws needed a reason, which meant that the 3 elders could only handle the 3 matches if the backbone of the sect decided to take the initiative. How should they deal with the next 2 matches then? They would give up the match of formations, and the match of sect leaders. Wei Tao estimated that his cultivation base and Yunyang should be on par, and he might not win even if he fought them head-on. Moreover, the opponent had the mystical beast to support him, so he had no chance of winning either. The next match of disciples would be even less likely to win due to the mystical beast factor. F***CK. Thinking about it. Even if they managed to get 3 draws in the first 3 matches, they would still lose the last 2 matches, and the result would still be no hope of winning. How could they fight then? The crowd was so melancholic that they almost wanted to kill themselves. The eldest of the Golden Cauldron 3 elders, Xueqi, frowned. "I've lived for more than 3,000 years and I've been through many storms, but I've never encountered such a thing. This is strange." His words enraged the crowd, and they began to curse Beast Trainer sect in unison. It's all the fault of those fools from Beast Trainer sect. Their smarts have led to the current situation. It's obvious that he can't beat his opponent. He's already lost all 3 battles, yet he still refuses to admit defeat. Instead, he has the cheek to suggest a free battle. This is a self-destructive bastard. If they hadn't reminded the residents of 9 Supremes, we wouldn't have ended up like this. I'm really mad. Those bastards from the Beast Control sect will definitely die a horrible death. Once the Battle of the Imperial Banner is over, I will definitely not let them go. Wei Tao rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. Guys, don't curse the Beast Trainer sect for now. After this battle, I'll take the lead and stop them halfway and beat them up. I can even kill them all. The problem now is us. What should we do? As soon as he said this, everyone immediately fell silent. What to do? We've been discussing this issue for an entire night. If we knew what to do, would we still need to curse like this? Tomorrow, I will represent you in the Battle of the Pinnacle. Xueqi sighed helplessly. Let's try our best to stall for a while. If it really doesn't work, then we'll find an opportunity to self-detonate. Everything can wait until then. If I am lucky enough to win, then we still have a chance. If I can't win, I'll also try to self-detonate and drag the opponent down with me to a draw. Let's see if we can get lucky after the first 3 rounds. But if I can't kill the opponent even with my self-detonation, Xueqi sighed bitterly. Then we'll just admit defeat. If we continue to fight, we'll only embarrass ourselves even more. Everyone lowered their heads and thought for a moment, realizing that this seemed to be the only feasible solution at the moment. He could only take it one step at a time and see how it goes. Xueqi was right. If he did his best and won in the end, or even if he could not win, there would still be a point in fighting in the future with his self-detonation. However, if even his self-detonation could not kill the opponent, then everything would be meaningless. It was still meaningful to put up a stubborn resistance when there was a chance. If there was no chance at all and he still insisted on fighting, then he would only be embarrassing himself and making a fool of himself. At this moment, Wei Tao's shiny head looked a little dispirited. He took 2 quick breaths and said, "This is the only thing we can do. Sigh. Everyone, get some rest. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Uncle Master, Golden Cauldron sect will rely on your strength." When everyone had left, Wei Tao looked at Chu Xiaofeng pitifully. He suddenly felt that his state of mind had become much bleaker in the middle of the night. Chu Xiaofeng heaved a long sigh and said, "I'll do my best. I thought that we could climb to the middle-class ranks of the celestial luck banners this time, a feat that no one in Golden Cauldron sect has ever done." Chu Xiaofeng's sigh was filled with helplessness. Who would have thought that we might not even be able to secure the first place of the lower class? Wei Tao blinked his eyes and coughed. "We might still be able to secure the first place of the lower class." Chu Xiaofeng perked up and asked, "What do you mean?" Wei Tao's face suddenly flushed as he said embarrassedly, "Uncle Master's understanding of the ranking of the celestial luck banners is a little biased. If Residents of Nine Supremes defeats us, not only will they become the chief disciple of the lower-class celestial luck banners, they will also have the qualification to challenge the middle-class celestial luck banners. With Residents of Nine Supremes' comprehensive combat strength, even we are no match for them. I believe the last place of the middle-class celestial luck banners will also be hard to deal with. In other words, the last place among the original mid-class celestial luck banners is bound to fall to the lower-class sects, but the sects with the original lower-class celestial luck banners have the right to challenge the sects with the lower-class celestial luck banners once. Although this rule exists, it is rarely used, but it suits us perfectly. As long as we can defeat the eliminated sect, we will still be the first place among the lower-class sects, and we might even have a chance to advance to the mid-class celestial luck banner. 3 years later, we still have a chance." As Wei Tao spoke, his voice became softer and softer. In the end, it was almost inaudible. Chu Xiaofeng blinked his eyes, his mouth slightly open as he stared at his sect leader martial nephew. In truth, Chu Xiaofeng was already frightened by his sect master martial nephew's words. What a far-sighted and far-sighted man. Now, he was already thinking about what would happen after he lost, and he had even thought about it for a few steps. The Residents of Nine Supremes would actually defeat him and ascend to the middle-class class, then compete with the sect that was eliminated from the middle-class class for the first place, and even had the idea of competing for the mid-class celestial luck banner 3 years later. He really had to say, "Martial nephew." Chu Xiaofeng's eyes gleamed with curiosity. He spoke slowly. "It has been so many years. This old man has been watching you since you were still wearing diapers. But I've never realized that you are actually such a strange flower that seizes the heaven and earth." Wei Tao blushed. "Martial uncle." Chu Xiaofeng coughed and said, "If you were to play chess, you would definitely be invincible. You take 1 step and look 3 steps ahead, at least look 3 steps ahead." Wei Tao lowered his head. King old thing. I really don't want to talk to you. Your ability to insult others is the real strange flower in this world. Chapter 11-12. It was early in the morning again. All the sects with lower-class celestial luck banners had arriving exceptionally early. When the sky was still dark, they had already gone to their respective stands. This was the battle of the century that would decide the position of the chief disciple of lower-class celestial luck banners. Could Golden Cauldron sect, the veteran top sect, hold on to its dominant position? Could Residents of Nine Supremes, the rising star and new dark horse, continue its legend, break through the last barrier in one go and ascend to the top? Everyone was curious about the final result of this battle. In order to watch the final battle, the sects that had been defeated did not leave. Obviously, they all wanted to see Golden Cauldron sect's miserable state. Everyone knew this very well. Even Golden Cauldron sect, the veteran top sect, did not have much confidence in winning against Residents of Nine Supremes. They did not even have the confidence to maintain a tie. When they thought of this, all the sects that had been defeated before suddenly felt better. If even Golden Cauldron sect could not defeat Residents of Nine Supremes, it was not surprising that they had lost to Residents of Nine Supremes. It was a given. It was a given. As for Golden Cauldron sect, hasn't Golden Cauldron sect always been amazing? Haven't you always been high and mighty? At the beginning of this gathering, you revealed that you wanted to go further, challenge a higher level, and obtain a middle-class celestial luck banner? How are you now? Do you feel bad? Do you feel miserable? Do you feel awkward? Ha ha ha. Who asked you to show off, to be arrogant, to disdain being associated with us? You deserve it. You deserve it. Hua Yunfeng had arrived early as well. His eyes were fixed on the celestial luck banner fluttering high in the sky above Residents of Nine Supremes' stand. His gaze was exceptionally complicated, and so was his heart. residents of 9 Supremes, with a newly promoted lower-class Celestial Luck Banner sect as its starting point, had marched forward bravely and killed its opponents all the way to this point, beginning to aspire to be the chief disciple of the lower-class Celestial Luck Banner. Bet, sigh. I'm so stupid. Really, I'm not lying. Golden Cauldron's sect had arrived as well. Wei Tao, the sect leader, had 2 big dark circles under his eyes. Coupled with his shiny bald head, he looked haggard and dispirited. When he looked at the residents of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner, his gaze was also complicated and inexplicable. After a long time, the people from the residents of 9 Supremes finally arrived. Sect leader Wei, may I ask how you want to fight? Do you have any unique tactics? Asked Hua Yunfeng. Wei Tao coughed as his face turned red. My side has decided to fight a battle of the pinnacle before we talk about the rest. One match? Hua Yunfeng couldn't help but ask. Obviously, he didn't know what Wei Tao was talking about. Everyone else arranged for 5 matches. Why did you say something like that? Fight a pinnacle battle first? 1 match? Wei Tao's face was flushed red as he awkwardly said, We're planning to do it 1 match at a time. After the first match, we'll adjust. Other than that, there are no other special tactics. Hua Yunfeng's eyes widened, and he seemed to have understood something. He nodded and said, Then let's have a pinnacle battle first, and then we'll talk about the follow-up. He had really thought it through. With the residents of 9 Supreme's current strength and the support of 4 Saint King mystical beasts, they were unbeatable in any battle. This pinnacle match should be the one that Golden Cauldron's sect had planned. Only by winning this match would Golden Cauldron's sect have the need to continue fighting and have the possibility of winning. If they lost this pinnacle match, they would not even need to fight the next 4 matches, they could just admit defeat. The first match is the pinnacle battle. Hua Yunfeng's voice rang out. A lean old man slowly rose to his feet from the Golden Cauldron sect's seat. He was Chu Xiaofeng, and he walked out slowly. Yun Yang stared at the old man who was walking out with a vigilant look on his face. This old man is so strong. He's actually a rare pinnacle expert in this meeting. Moreover, as he walked out, the aura on his body continued to rise. Is he burning his life force? Yun Yang frowned. He's burning his life force now? Is he planning to self-destruct? This old man's cultivation base is already extremely high. Is he a 2nd grade Saint King or higher? If he self-destructed with such a cultivation base, the power will be beyond imagination. Yun Yang did not speak, and neither did Luo Dejiang and the others behind him. Although the people of Golden Cauldron sect were looking at Luo Dejiang now, Luo Dejiang knew very well that he was definitely not the #1 expert of residents of 9 Supremes. Whether it was Shi Wuchen, who had always shown weakness, or his boss, Yun Yang, they were both stronger than him. He was just a cover, a smokescreen. In the pinnacle battle against the other sects, he would be the one to fight if there was any leeway. However, in today's battle, the slightest mistake could lead to a crushing defeat and affect the progress of residents of 9 Supremes. Luo Dejiang knew that he could not afford to take such a risk. Even if his boss and his brothers did not say anything afterward, he would not be able to get over it. This old man is very strong. I'm afraid Dejiang can't handle him, Shi Wuchen said in a low voice. Yes. If it's a one-on-one fight, I probably can't beat him. Luo Dejiang's face was solemn. Even with the help of mystical beasts, Luo Dejiang's face darkened even further. If the old man self-destructs, I'm not sure I can get away with it. Yun Yang smiled faintly. I'll fight this battle. At this moment, Shi Wuchen and Luo Dejiang both felt a sense of relief from the bottom of their hearts. Both of them really felt their bodies lighten up at this moment. How could Big Boss not win when he took action? The residence of 9 Supremes was a magical place. Even Shi Wuchen and the others, who were the first-generation elders of the residence of 9 Supremes, could still feel the endless mysteries at all times. The spiritual chi that was beyond their expectations, the rare ethereal amethysts, the miraculous pills that could enhance one's cultivation base. All of these were proof of how extraordinary the residence of 9 Supremes was. However, the most unfathomable person in the residence of 9 Supremes was none other than Yun Yang. Both Shi Wuchen and Luo Dejiang firmly knew that their boss had endless tricks up his sleeves. Endless trump cards. Enough to deal with any unfavorable situation. This understanding was different from the unreachable mountain that Xueqi and the others had for Dong Qitian. Although Dong Qitian's ability was so powerful that it exceeded everyone's understanding, including Yun Yang's, he was still a top-notch expert, an otherworldly expert. Yun Yang, on the other hand, was unfathomable and unfathomable. It was a completely different sense of brilliance. Yun Yang stood up and chuckled. Since it's a battle of the pinnacle, I'm sure the other party has placed all his bets on this battle. Let me have a match with this senior then. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. You? The sect leader himself? But the strongest expert that the residents of 9 Supremes had sent out earlier was clearly not you. This, however, everyone understood immediately. The residents of 9 Supremes had a backup plan. The true strongest expert of the residents of 9 Supremes was this sect leader, not anyone else. As they thought about it, everyone could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Chapter 11-13. The residence of 9 Supremes had actually hidden itself so deeply that it had dug a huge pit for its opponents to jump into. No, it was clear that a few people had fallen into this pit one after another. They had been beaten black and blue, but they did not know it. It was only at this moment, when the residents of 9 Supremes revealed this trump card, that they truly understood that they had not lost unjustly. Hua Yunfeng's expression grew more complicated. At this moment, his desire to witness the birth of a legend had long flown away. F***CK. What a trap. If I continue to gamble, I might be tricked by him again. Yun Yang's purple robe fluttered as he descended leisurely. In particular, he was carrying a little fellow that looked like a fluffy ball of fur in his arms, which made him look like a handsome young man and a handsome young man. The little fellow, which was only the size of a fist and was meowing innocently with its eyes wide open, was so adorable that it could kill people. However, when everyone looked at the little fellow, there was only a chill in their hearts. What the F***CK? You are a high-level Saint King mystical beast. Is it really okay for you to act cute and confuse people like this every day? At this moment, Yun Yang had already walked to the center of the field. Chu Xiaofeng's eyes were unusually cold. His attention was focused on Whitey in Yun Yang's arms, and he stared at it for a long time. Sect leader Yun, did you bring only one mystical beast for this battle? Chu Xiaofeng asked. Yun Yang asked in pleasant surprise. Is there no limit to the number of mystical beasts that can assist you in the battle? If there is no limit, I can summon a few more. I'm sure you will be satisfied. Chu Xiaofeng's face twitched a little as he said faintly, as far as this old man knows, high-level practitioners are not allowed to bring more than one mystical beast to the battle unless it is prearranged. Yun Yang was a little disappointed and said, Oh, I was happy for nothing. Chu Xiaofeng, on the other hand, felt like vomiting blood. If you had brought your 4 Shen beasts, this old man wouldn't have fought with you. Chu Xiaofeng's words were true. Xueqi that were skilled in beast taming could control multiple Shen beasts, but high-level Xueqi would normally only control one high-level Shen beast. In other words, they would only control one high-level Shen beast of the same level as their own cultivation. The rest would rarely be higher-level Shen beasts. There was a limit to a person's strength. The amount of effort and energy that a beast taming master had to expend to control a high-level Shen beast of similar strength was usually the limit. Any more would not be able to bear the burden. In other words, when people with high-tier subdued beasts fought against their enemies, it wasn't that they didn't want to summon more beasts. In reality, it was because they didn't have enough power to summon more beasts. In spite of this, Yun Yang's situation was different from that of an ordinary beast tamer. He was not controlling the 4 Saint King mystical beasts from the perspective of a beast tamer. One was lacking in power while the other had more than enough. How could they be compared? However, there was nothing Yun Yang could do when Chu Xiaofeng used this as an excuse. Sect leader Yun, please. Please. Big Whitey leaped out and howled, its body expanding abruptly. At the same time, Chu Xiaofeng's sword and Yun Yang's saber glowed brilliantly. As the saber and sword clashed, the air was filled with radiance. Once they clashed, both of them had chosen to clash head-on at the same time. This head-on clash was the usual practice in this Tianyun battleground. Due to the divine sense being shielded, no one knew the level of their opponent's ability. The main purpose of this head-on clash was to probe, to have a clearer understanding of the other's cultivation base. This clash was necessary. With a loud bang, Yun Yang was flung 70 feet away like a kite with a broken string. Chu Xiaofeng only swayed a little and took a small step back. In spite of this, it was obvious that Yun Yang's cultivation base was at least a notch lower than Chu Xiaofeng's. However, when Chu Xiaofeng focused on his saber again, his expression changed. His saber was wailing on its own, howling endlessly. On the originally snow-white blade, there was now a soybean-sized nick, which was exceptionally conspicuous. As the great elder of the Golden Cauldron sect, Chu Xiaofeng's status was almost higher than that of the Golden Cauldron sect's leader, Wei Tao. His resources and treatment were naturally the best in the Golden Cauldron sect. His saber was the product of thousands of years of nurturing with countless heaven and earth treasures and his own blood. He was confident that it was already an indestructible divine weapon. Who would have thought that his saber would be severely damaged when it clashed with his opponent's weapon? What material was his opponent's saber made of? How could it be so sharp? With such a divine weapon in his hands, his opponent's chances of winning this battle would inevitably be reduced, be it mentally or realistically. Sect leader Yun, what a fine saber. Chu Xiaofeng's expression was grim, his heart aching so much that it was about to bleed. Senior Chu, you flatter me. It's barely presentable. Chu Xiaofeng's thoughts spun rapidly. He clearly understood that it was actually more difficult to win this battle than he had expected. The main reason for the difficulty was not that unexpectedly sharp treasured saber, but Yun Yang himself. Through the previous clash, Chu Xiaofeng could feel at once that Yun Yang's cultivation base had broken through the first level of Saint King and reached the beginner level of second level Saint King. Although he was at the pinnacle of second level and was much stronger than Yun Yang, it was not a gap that could be easily overcome. If it was purely a one-on-one battle, he was confident that he could win, but that victory would be to exhaust Yun Yang to death with his thick mystical qi, and not to end the battle cleanly. Because Yun Yang still had an indestructible treasured saber in his hand, it caused the situation to become increasingly unbalanced. Two cultivators with similar cultivation base, each wielding a weapon that could decide the outcome of the battle. The current situation was as such. If he was not careful, he could be killed by that treasured saber. The scope of his carelessness was broad, not just Chu Xiaofeng himself, but also his saber. When he had clashed with Yun Yang earlier, his saber had already been chipped. If he were to come into contact with his opponent's saber, the sword would probably be destroyed immediately. However, the matter that he had intentionally avoided was definitely the direction that his opponent was working towards. This battle was really too restrictive for them. Combining the advantages and disadvantages of both sides, Chu Xiaofeng judged that even if it was a one-on-one battle, his chances of winning were only slightly more than 50%, which was only slightly higher than his opponent's. However, Yun Yang still had the assistance of a Saint King-level mystical beast. If the mystical beast was added to the battle, not only would the odds of winning be reversed, it would be more than 95% of the time. There was no chance of winning. The remaining 5% chance, which was also the only tactic in the plan, was to self-destruct. Chu Xiaofeng retreated slowly. Very good, very good. In the next moment, it was as if he had turned into a whirlwind, the layers of sword shadows turning into raging waves. Chapter 11:14. Yun Yang stood where he was calmly, his saber gleaming. The divine edge seemed to have come alive as it countered Chu Xiaofeng's attacks calmly. Big Whitey did not join in the fight yet, only standing behind Yun Yang. Obviously, now was not the time for Big Whitey to fight, or rather, Yun Yang had no intention of letting Big Whitey join the fight. Yun Yang's plan was straightforward. It was a rare opportunity to meet an opponent whose cultivation base was slightly higher than his and whose fighting spirit was so high that he was willing to die. If he did not fight to his heart's content, he would have missed the opportunity. Yun Yang's saber truth. Destiny Blade was unleashed to its fullest at this moment. To a cultivator, it was rare to meet an opponent whose cultivation base was on par with theirs. They would give it their all and risk their lives, especially when they did not even have to worry about the biggest threat of death. How could they not make use of it? Yun Yang's cultivation base had improved too quickly recently. This was the perfect opportunity to train and integrate it. Chu Xiaofeng was like a giant hammer that could split the heavens, hammering down with the force of a thunderbolt. Yun Yang's saber truth. Destiny Blade was unleashed in full force as he countered Chu Xiaofeng's attack. As time passed, Yun Yang was at a disadvantage most of the time, but it was not as if Yun Yang could not retaliate at all. Occasionally, he would counterattack and Chu Xiaofeng would have to change his move to avoid it immediately. After all, other than taking care of his sword, he had to avoid being injured as much as he could. To unleash the maximum power of self-detonation, he had to first ensure that his physical body was intact. A certain someone's shadow was not far off. If his body was not complete, the power of self-detonation would definitely be reduced. This was what he had to avoid now. For a moment, both of them were locked in a stalemate. Everyone was paying close attention to the battle. Chu Xiaofeng's sword was like a gale that swept the crescent moon, like a looming mountain pressing down on Yun Yang with the force of a thunderstorm. Chu Xiaofeng's sword light was everywhere, whether it was in the sky or on the ground. What the eyes could see was actually the sword light from 3 strikes ago. The sword light now had already formed and was hidden in a place where it could appear at any time. With a flash, a huge wave would rise. As the battle went on, Chu Xiaofeng's aura grew stronger and more ferocious, like waves crashing against the shore. In spite of this, Yun Yang was like a small boat amidst the raging waves in the vast ocean. He rose and fell with the wind and the waves, bobbing up and down without anyone noticing. Even when he occasionally surged to the top of the wave, he would immediately fall into the bottom of the wave, as if he could capsize at any time. However, this precarious situation did not worsen. It was an unstable state, but there was still a sense of security. As the battle Chu Yun's attacked Chu Xiaofeng Yang and Yun He of Yang he had he God he had he of Yang he had with the Chi Chu Yang and Yun but Yang and Yun Yang and Yang he Yun he they and Yang Yun he and to he. The situation was obviously disadvantageous to Yun Yang, but no matter how precarious the situation was, Yun Yang still tried his best, elevating his essence, qi, and spirit to their limits. Amidst the barrage of Chu Xiaofeng's sword light, he did not use the 9 Supreme's manifestation powers to counter it, only Saber Truth, Destiny Blade. Chu Xiaofeng's vision was unique. It had only been a short while since they had fought, but he had already determined that Yun Yang's marvelous saber skill was not something he could match up to. Its marvelous aspects were endless, and with his knowledge, it was difficult for him to reach its limits, let alone push it to its limits. As the thought flashed through his mind, he changed his attack again, turning it into a giant hammer that came crashing down from the heavens, hammering down on Yun Yang's skills. Man, you may have 1,000 tricks up your sleeve, but I have my own set of rules. If you have a marvelous skill, I will only counter it with brute force. My mystical chi cultivation base is higher than yours. Even if I were to use brute force, what could you do? The cultivators from various sects on the stage were shocked as they watched the intense battle unfold. It was the first time in many people's lives that they had seen a battle of this level. Although they were sincerely convinced and admired Chu Xiaofeng's strength, most of them had expected it. After all, Golden Cauldron's sect had already announced their intention to challenge sects with middle-class celestial luck banners and go further. It would be unreasonable if the top expert of a sect did not have such strength, and it was just arrogance. However, residents of 9 Supreme Supremacy, Yun Yang, had held on for so long without the help of mystical beasts when facing Chu Xiaofeng, the top expert of Golden Cauldron sect. On top of that, he was still defending himself, which was even more remarkable. Standing on the stage, Hua Yunfeng watched the battle in a daze and said faintly, "Back then, when my cultivation base had reached the 2nd grade of Saint King, if I had encountered an attack like Chu Xiaofeng's, I'm afraid I would have been completely defeated by now. But Yun Yang can still hold on, and he even has the strength to fight back occasionally. As long as the leader of residents of 9 Supremes doesn't die prematurely, his future will be limitless." Ding Byuk was calculating in his mind as he stared at the battlefield. His eyes did not blink for a long time before he said, "It's true that Chu Xiaofeng's attacks are like thunderbolts, unstoppable and unstoppable, but Yun Yang gives me a subtle feeling like a phoenix bathing in fire." Yu Bunning clapped his hands and said, "Yes, that's the feeling. It's like. At this point, Chu Shi could not think of a more accurate adjective even after racking his brain. Yun Yang is probably like a rare divine weapon that is being tempered, Hua Yunfeng said faintly. Chu Xiaofeng, on the other hand, is like a sledgehammer, removing the few impurities in the rare divine weapon bit by bit. Squeezing it out bit by bit, isn't it? Yu Bunning slapped his thigh and said, "That's right." Hua Yunfeng sighed and said, "So, Yun Yang is using Chu Xiaofeng's attacks to sharpen his saber and break through his own limits. Yun Yang's biggest goal in this battle is to learn and temper himself, so naturally, He is doing everything he can to the best of his ability. However, Chu Xiaofeng's goal is to win the battle. The states of mind of these two combatants are completely different. Their hearts are different, and their paths are even more different. With the combat strength that Yun Yang has shown so far, if he really wants to end this battle, he only needs to let the mystical beasts charge forward and attack from both sides. Then, Chu Xiaofeng's current advantage will immediately disappear, and he will even have to make a prompt decision to self-detonate. Only then will there be a chance of a tie. But Yun Yang has never done so. Obviously, he wants to continue this tempering to the end. So, it's Chu Xiaofeng who is struggling to hold on now. Because if he self-detonate now, the mystical beasts will charge forward and Yun Yang will take a step back. The mystical beasts will die, but Yun Yang will be seriously injured at most, and he will still lose. So, Chu Xiaofeng is helpless now. He can only keep increasing his strength and wait for an opportunity, waiting for the moment when Yun Yang can't hold on anymore and the mystical beasts have to step forward. Genius 1 second. Remember my address. Mobile version. Chapter 11:15. Hua Yunfeng side. In the past, it was always the people of the major sects who used the Demiurge Flawed 10, Xueqi, and the others to hone themselves, but now it's the top experts of the sects who are honing Xueqi and the others' loyalty. It's a bit of karma. Chu Xiaofeng knows that his opponent is using his strength to hone himself, but he can't stop. He can only use a stronger force to fight. He can't retreat, and he can't lose. Hua Yunfeng sighed. What's more, judging from the current situation, Chu Xiaofeng will probably have a hard time. His attacks seem calm, but in fact, he doesn't dare to use his weapon to fight the opponent's blade. Almost every time he attacks, he uses his powerful mystical qi to protect his weapon. In terms of mystical qi consumption, he's far more than his opponent. In the long run, even if no mystical beast joins the battle, Chu Xiaofeng may not be able to win. As it turned out, Hua Yunfeng, a veteran of the martial world, was very accurate. Yun Yang seemed to be at a disadvantage the whole time, but in fact, he was just using Chu Xiaofeng to hone himself. Chu Xiaofeng's heart grew colder as the battle went on. He had used all his trump cards and unleashed his mystical qi to the limit, but his opponent was like a candle flame in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time, but it was still burning after the gale passed by. If it was the gale that could not be withstood in the end, the result would be embarrassing. On the other hand, the mystical beast that made Chu Xiaofeng so vigilant only watched from the side, but did not really join the battle. What the hell is this? Are you here to put on airs by bringing a mystical beast? Or are you here to walk your cat? It's just a burst of aura at the beginning, a show of power, and that's it. Tell him to come up and fight. Big brother. Can't you just let me end this battle quickly? Yun Yang was sweating profusely. He looked as miserable as he could be, but he was holding on. Holding on. When you think I'm going to fall for the 80th time, I'm still holding on. Chu Xiaofeng was burning with anxiety, but he dared not let his guard down. Seeing that Yun Yang was about to collapse, if he let his guard down and gave the other a chance to catch his breath, he would have to spend even more effort to recover. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Yun Yang was still wobbling but he did not fall. Chu Xiaofeng gritted his teeth, his silhouette in the air coming to a sudden halt before he spat out a mouthful of blood. The sword in his hand suddenly exploded with a brilliant sword light. Originally, the sword projections were around 30 feet in length, and they were already extremely dazzling as they danced through the air. Now, each and every one of the sword projections had suddenly expanded to over 100 feet in length, and they were glowing with incandescent white light. Their might had reached unprecedented heights. The sound of wind and thunder became 3 to 4 times louder than before. Yun Yang felt the pressure mounting at once, gradually losing the ability to continue. Of course, Yun Yang was unwilling to give up. Saber Truth. Destiny Blade was channeled to its limit as if his life depended on it. For a moment, there were many brilliant techniques, but he could barely maintain it. The space in his safe zone was constantly squeezed and compressed. The situation was extremely precarious. It was not that Saber Truth. Destiny Blade was not powerful. It was that Yun Yang's cultivation base was a notch lower than his opponent's. In addition, Chu Xiaofeng had unleashed an arcane skill that greatly damaged his basic qi and forcefully channeled his mystical qi to unleash such terrifying power. Unless Yun Yang detonated his own limits and activated Saber Truth, Destiny Blade's ultimate killing technique, only then would he be able to turn the tables. However, this was not in line with his original plan. Yun Yang sighed softly. The battle was almost over. Chu Xiaofeng should have reached the final moment. Yun Yang's gaze flickered. If so, let's end this. Whitey! Yun Yang suddenly hollered. Dubai suddenly appeared at his summons. With a deafening howl, it charged towards Chu Xiaofeng. Tens of thousands of blade-like energies swept out in all directions. At the same time, Yun Yang's saber sliced through the air, the saber light glowing a strange purple as it slashed forward. His aura soared as he assumed a stance of charging forward with all his might. I've given you a chance. Don't blame me if you can't catch it. Chu Xiaofeng bellowed, his body expanding rapidly. In a split second, he had expanded to the maximum limit that his physical body could bear. Then with a loud boom, he exploded. Yun Yang reacted swiftly, retreating like a comet. Together with Whitey, the man and the beast unleashed their maximum speed, fleeing as if their lives depended on it. As Yun Yang retreated, the saber in his hand danced in the air, executing the 8 consecutive forms of Saber Truth. Destiny Blade all at once. The saber wind howled, forming a dense net of sabers that was hundreds of feet wide in front of him. This move was not meant to hurt the enemy, but to protect himself. A ferocious explosive force that had never been seen before surged towards him. The massive force of impact tore through Yun Yang's defensive net of sabers like a hot knife through butter as it charged towards him. The ferocious impact caused Yun Yang's vision to darken as his body was flung away like a kite with a broken string. As he bore the brunt of the impact, blood splattered all over his body. Whitey, who had been by Yun Yang's side, let out a cry as well. Its large body was flung away like a ball, its 2 front claws blasted off. The force of Chu Xiaofeng's self-destruction was earth-shattering. Even the spectator stands around the arena were overturned. Even Hua Yunfeng had only managed to save 4 sects by exerting his strength to resist it. The other sects had been flung to who knew where. Everyone was covered in dust, their faces filled with shock. A mushroom cloud soared into the sky, reaching thousands of feet into the sky. The sect leader of the Golden Cauldron sect, Wei Tao, widened his eyes as he stared at the thick smoke. His mouth was wide open and his 2 front teeth were already protruding out. At this moment, they were even more exposed, like fangs. Cough, comrades have teeth. Hee, I forgot to write it down. He knew clearly that his uncle master had self-destructed. However, the key point now was not Chu Xiaofeng's self-destruction, but the result of his self-destruction. Whether Yun Yang was dead or not. If Yun Yang's self-destruction had been a shockwave, there would still be room for the battle to continue. However, if Yun Yang was not dead, it would mean that Chu Xiaofeng's self-destruction had been in vain, and it would also mean that the Golden Cauldron sect had lost the first round. There was no point in forcing themselves to continue. Although the other 2 Uncle Masters were also second-grade Saint Kings, their ultimate combat power was not as strong as Chu Xiaofeng's. On the other hand, Yun Yang's cultivation base was similar to Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang's. If Chu Xiaofeng's self-destruction failed to kill Yun Yang, the other 2 matches would most likely not be able to drag Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang to the next round. Even if they could successfully drag Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang to the next round, they would not be able to win the next 2 matches, be it the match between the disciples or the sect leaders. In that case, they had no chance of winning at all. There was really no point in continuing the battle. Smoke rose and gradually spread out. The people from the residence of 9 Supremes were naturally staring at the scene, anxiously waiting for the figure to reappear. After a short moment, a clear and melodious voice faintly sounded out from within the dust and dirt that covered the heavens and the earth. This is the most stressful battle of my life. It was Yun Yang's voice. Once he spoke, the outcome of the battle was decided. Chapter 11:16. We've won. After a moment of silence, a deafening cheer erupted from the residence of 9 Supreme Spectator stand. The sound wave spread across the entire place, filled with boundless joy. After a while, the cloud of dust finally dissipated and Yun Yang reappeared. Yun Yang was still hugging a small white object. It was Big Whitey. Big Whitey had paid a huge price in the process of self-detonation just now. All 4 of its legs were blown away, while half of its eyes and ears were damaged. If it were not for the unlimited recovery ability in the fifth layered heaven, Yun Yang would probably die of heartache. Even though he knew that the special ability of the dojo would take effect immediately and return to its original state, Yun Yang's heart still raced as he looked at Big Whitey in agony. Big Whitey's injuries were severe, but Yun Yang's condition was not much better. His usually elegant purple robe was now soaked in blood. Many wounds on his body were still spilling blood. One of his arms was missing, and one of his legs was missing as well, exposing his white bone. With Yun Yang's ability, if he had used his manifestation powers to deal with the explosion just now, he could have turned into the wind and clouds in an instant and neutralized the terrifying force. Nothing would have happened. However, the manifestation supernatural power was his greatest trump card, and it was a trump card that he had never revealed in front of others. Since his life was not in danger, and he could recover infinitely later, there was really no meaning in revealing the manifestation supernatural power. The disadvantages were greater than the advantages, and there was no point in doing so. Besides, there were other effects if he looked a little more miserable now. At least, it could make the people from Golden Cauldron sect feel better. Of course, Yun Yang was only thinking of his opponent. He did not consider confusing his opponent. Cough. The moment Yun Yang's faint voice rang, Wei Tao, the sect leader of Golden Cauldron sect, slumped to the ground. His body and mind were dejected and dispirited, and there was only one thing left in his mind. Would the residents of Nine Supremes continue to challenge the sects with lower-class celestial luck banners? Would they be able to take down one of the sects with the original middle-class celestial luck banners? If they could, the Golden Cauldron sect could seize the opportunity to challenge them and possibly keep their position as the top disciple of the lower-class celestial luck banner. But if he couldn't, the Golden Cauldron sect had been the leader of the lower class for so many years. If they were to suddenly become second place, that would be really embarrassing. I can't be dispirited now. I need to think about it and come up with a plan on how to deal with that sect that has been defeated. You must continue to challenge the residents of Nine Supremes and take down a sect with a middle-class celestial luck banner. I have high hopes for you. Really. Otherwise, you'll have to press on top of me and make me the second. I can't afford to lose that face. Oh my god. Residents of Nine Supremes wins. Hua Yunfeng did not know how many times he had sighed. Witnessing the birth of a legend with his own eyes was something to be happy about, especially when this legend was born under his supervision. However, for Hua Yunfeng, he would be happier and have no regrets if he didn't lose so many supreme-grade spiritual jades. With a flash of light, Yun Yang and Big Whitey were fully recovered. Big White meowed as it realized that its body was completely unscathed in that instant. It stuck out its tongue and licked its body to confirm the truth. On the opposite side, Chu Xiaofeng stood desolately. Looking at Yun Yang, he said with great disappointment, "Are you all right, sect leader Yun?" Yun Yang smiled. "I'm lucky that I wasn't killed by your desperate strike. But I'm only left with one breath. This is one of the few major injuries I've suffered since I entered the Tao." Chu Xiaofeng said with discomfort, "If I'm still alive, then Residents of Nine Supremes has won." Yun Yang bowed. "Thank you for letting me win." "There's no such thing as letting you win with your own strength." Chu Xiaofeng sighed sadly. "Congratulations." "Thank you." On the high platform, Wei Tao stuck out his big belly. His pointy head blinked twice as he said, "The Golden Cauldron sect will give up the remaining matches." The crowd burst into an uproar when they heard Wei Tao admit defeat. It was obvious that the major sects could not believe the Golden Cauldron sect's decision. After all, the Pavilion of Earth, which was originally ranked second yesterday, had fought for 5 rounds before being defeated. Yet, the Golden Cauldron sect, who claimed to want to advance further, had given up the remaining matches after only 1 round. However, when the crowd thought about it carefully, they felt that the Golden Cauldron sect's decision was reasonable. The Pavilion of Earth was famous for its defense. It prioritized defense in every battle and used defense as its offense, refusing to give up and fighting residents of Nine Supremes. On the one hand, it wanted to take a chance, and on the other, it was also to verify its strength and test its shortcomings in actual combat. It was understandable that the Pavilion of Earth's strength would certainly advance further after that match. On the other hand, the Golden Cauldron sect, who felt that its strength had reached its peak, had already sent out its strongest fighting force to fight residents of Nine Supremes in the first round. However, The few mystical beasts of Residence of Nine Supremes were powerful killing machines. Even Chu Xiaofeng could not do anything to them even if he tried his best to blow himself up, let alone the others. Admitting defeat was also the best thing to do in a desperate situation. Residence of Nine Supremes is the top disciple of the lower-class celestial luck banner. When Hua Yunfeng said this, he felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. It was sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy. I'm so stupid, really. Among the 9 sects present, other than the Residence of Nine Supremes, the other 8 sects were all speechless, unable to utter a word for a long time. In just a few days, the Residence of Nine Supremes, a small sect that had just been established, had become the top disciple of a lower-class celestial luck banner sect? Although everyone's celestial luck banner was the same and there was no difference between the first and the 9th place, it meant that the sect's strength was extraordinary. The status of the top 3 was very different from that of the middle class and the bottom 3. The top disciple of a lower-class celestial luck banner was also the position closest to the middle-class celestial luck banner and qualified to advance further. This position, which originally belonged to the Golden Cauldron sect, which was confident that it could climb to the middle-class celestial luck banner, was now occupied by the latecomer of Residence of Nine Supremes. Sect Leader Yun, Hua Yunfeng said with a smile. I wonder what your next plan is, Sect Leader Yun? The meaning of his question was obvious. Everyone's ears perked up, especially the Golden Cauldron sect. It was especially so for the Golden Cauldron sect. Almost everyone's ears were pricked up. Sect Leader Wei Tao's ears instantly widened. His beady eyes were glued to Yun Yang's mouth. Master Yun, Grandpa Yun, please don't stop just like that. You must move forward bravely. You must rush. I'm kowtowing to you in my heart. Genius 1 second remember site address. Mobile version, M. Chapter 11:17. Yun Yang smiled, caressing Whitey in his arms in a carefree manner and said, Before coming here, we didn't have much ambition. We just wanted to take it one step at a time and try our best to get there. We didn't mean to ask for too much. Now, thanks to our friends from other sects, Residence of Nine Supremes is now standing at the top of the lower-class celestial luck banners. However, we who are already here still feel that we have strength to spare. Since our initial plan was to try our best, it would be going against our original intention if we don't try our best. It's such a pity. Everyone's expression turned even more complicated when they heard this. All along the way, they had been thinking of competing with the other party, but the other party was about to break through to the middle-class class. Perhaps they would not be at the same level in the future and would never see each other again. How could they compete? Only Wei Tao, the Golden Cauldron sect's leader, relaxed and could not help but laugh. Sect Leader Yun, your Residence's challenge this time will definitely be a success. I wish Sect Leader Yun a bright future and hope to become the top of the middle-class celestial luck banners soon. Yun Yang rolled his eyes. Become the top of the middle-class celestial luck banners? Yun Yang had never even thought of this possibility. How dare you, Wei Tao, say it? He did not know that Wei Tao's words were from the bottom of his heart. First, if Residence of Nine Supremes could successfully ascend to the middle-class celestial luck banners, it would mean that the lower-class celestial luck banners' last place would fall to the lower-class celestial luck banners again. Secondly, if Residence of Nine Supremes did not just win once but managed to ascend 2 or 3 places, the last place among the middle-class celestial luck banners would not be Residence of Nine Supremes. 3 years later, Golden Cauldron sect would once again have the chance to challenge the lower-class celestial luck banners. From Wei Tao's perspective, the smoother Residence of Nine Supremes battles with the middle-class celestial luck banners went, the better it would be, and the more they advanced the better. The greater the advancement, the better. It meant that the Residence of Nine Supremes' ability was superior among the middle-class sects, and it was not that the lower-class sects were too weak. At the same time, it would give him room to challenge the middle-class sects in the future. After all, everyone in the Golden Cauldron sect was afraid of the Residence of Nine Supremes. At least in the short term, they did not want to face them again. Yun Yang turned to Hua Yunfeng and said, Residence of Nine Supremes feels that we still have strength to spare, so we've decided to continue to challenge the higher-class celestial luck banners. Hua Yunfeng nodded. All right. I'll leave 2 brothers here to take care of the follow-up matters here at the lower ranks. I'll personally send you up. He looked at the scene and said, If there's nothing else, why don't you disperse now? If the Golden Cauldron sect and the other sects disperse now, the three brothers could go to the third heaven together and watch the fierce fight between the middle-class sections. After all, in Hua Yunfeng's opinion, there should be nothing else to do here. Wei Tao shook his head, his small eyes gleaming. Shaking his big belly, he bared his teeth and said loudly, "Lord Deacon, the Golden Cauldron sect wants to wait for the result of the Residents of Nine Supremes' challenge of the middle-class celestial luck banners. If the Residents of Nine Supremes achieves another good result, the Golden Cauldron sect will be able to stabilize its position as the chief of the lower-class sects again." Hua Yunfeng's head swelled. "You've just lost, and you still want to continue?" Wei Tao chuckled and said, "Although the Golden Cauldron sect was defeated by the Residents of Nine Supremes, we are convinced of our defeat and believe that the Residents of Nine Supremes will not stop here. When the Residents of Nine Supremes goes to challenge the middle-class sects, we can just wait here. If the Residents of Nine Supremes succeeds, according to the convention, the sect that originally occupied the last place of the middle-class celestial luck banners will drop and become the first place of the lower-class sections. All the lower-class sects have the chance to challenge this school. Although we're no match for the Residents of Nine Supremes, the school that falls is not the Residents of Nine Supremes. We might be able to shake it." The corners of everyone's mouth twitched when they heard this. They didn't know what to say. In an instant, 10,000 divine beasts roared and galloped in everyone's heart. Golden Cauldron sect, you guys can be even more shameless. Even if your thoughts and actions are reasonable and effective at this critical juncture, it's very, very inappropriate, okay? After this battle, it's embarrassing enough that all the sects with lower-class celestial luck banners have won. Let us go home now. If your Golden Cauldron sect doesn't leave, you still have the space to fight for benefits. However, we will have to wait here with you. Does your Golden Cauldron sect still have a conscience? We are just waiting here. We are just waiting. We have nothing to say." Nevertheless, the entire Golden Cauldron sect would certainly not care about these trivial matters. Although all the Golden Cauldron sect disciples lowered their heads in shame at their leader's shameless argument, their eyes were shining brightly. Their leader was right. Since we have hope, why should we give up? We can't defeat the Residents of Nine Supremes, but can we defeat others? We'll wait and see. Since we still have the chance to take back the position of the chief disciple of the lower-class celestial luck banner, why don't we give it a try? It's your business to admit defeat, pack up and leave, but we're not. If we can take back the position of the chief disciple, we still have the possibility to ascend to the celestial luck banner 3 years later. As long as we don't go against the Residents of Nine Supremes, we'll be fine. This is our Golden Cauldron sect's infinite confidence. It must be said that the same kind of sect leader brought out the same kind of disciples. The disciples of Golden Cauldron sect were as thick-skinned as their sect leader. What was that? Ding Byuk and Yu Bunning were also glaring angrily at the Golden Cauldron sect. F***CK, you're delaying us from going up to watch the show. Do you know that? Hua Yunfeng came up to them and said with a chuckle, "Brothers, let's discuss something." Ding Byuk and Yu Bunning's faces darkened. "Here it comes. We don't want to discuss it with you." The Residents of Nine Supremes rose to their feet. Following Hua Yunfeng, they walked into the thick fog. Wherever they passed, the celestial luck banner that belonged to the Residents of Nine Supremes fluttered, revealing an upward passage. The eyes of the sects behind them were filled with complicated emotions as they watched the Residents of Nine Supremes leave. The other party was just a newly established sect, so how could they rush up to the front? We're still making no progress. The gap between us is really unreasonable. They're just opportunistic. Maybe they'll be killed as soon as they go up. Someone was muttering. That's right. How can a sect with a middle-class celestial luck banner be so easy to challenge? There's certainly no match for them. They'll definitely come back with their tails between their legs later. Their luck might be completely used up on our side. Who knows, they might even be wiped out by the enemy. If they can really rush up, I'll eat shit for a month. Let's bet if you don't believe me. Golden Cauldron sect's Wei Tao was enraged. What right do you have to be jealous of him? Cursing him. You guys are simply jealous of the talented. Can't you all learn from us? The Residents of Nine Supremes has just defeated us, but we're already so magnanimous. We even bless them. Our manners. Our self-restraint. Genius 1 second remember site address. Mobile version, M. Chapter 11:18. The people around him sneered. We're jealous of the talented? Aren't you just waiting for them to win so you can grab the first place? You make it sound like you're so benevolent and righteous, but in the end, you have your own little plan. Although the comments behind him were getting further and further away, Yun could still vaguely hear them. However, how could he not care about their envy, jealousy, and hatred? He walked forward with a calm face. Next, Xueqi strode forward with his head held high, his face expressionless. Meanwhile, Tai Qingcong and the others were talking to their disciples. There's no need to care about this. This is how the world has always been. You've succeeded, and you've done it in a way that surpasses others, so you're bound to attract a lot of envy, jealousy, and hatred. Especially those who have been surpassed by us. This is unavoidable. What you need to do is to leave behind these people who say such things behind as fast as possible. The faster, the better. The further, the better. They will never appear in your sight again. As long as such people appear, work hard to improve yourself and leave them far behind. If such people appear in the new level, continue to work hard and leave them behind. Yes, Master. Hua Yunfeng walked in front, listening to the people of Residence of Nine Supremes teach their disciples. His mind was filled with thoughts and thoughts. The words of Residence of Nine Supremes were wise and thought-provoking. Just by looking at the expressions on the faces of these little fellows, one would know that these words were absolutely effective, and it was as if they were suddenly enlightened. Sect Leader Yun, has Residence of Nine Supremes always taught its disciples like this? Yes, it's just a humble opinion. Just say it when you think of it. Don't forget it later. Haha, the rise of Residence of Nine Supremes today is indeed not a day's work. You flatter me, Deacon Hua. Residence of Nine Supremes has just been established. It's hard to fall when you praise it too highly. Sect Leader Yun, you're too humble. It's fate that we meet today. If you have time in the future, you might as well come to Sacred Heart Palace. Of course I'll have to bother you. Well, I haven't made many friends in my life, but Sect Leader Yun is a friend of mine despite the age gap. I'm very happy to meet you. You flatter me, Deacon Hua. Hey, little friend Yun, you and I hit it off right from the start. Yun and Deacon Hua grew closer and closer as they conversed. In the end, it was as if they were old friends. Xueqi and the others pretended that they were mute and followed behind, watching and listening. With Yun's current status, how was it possible for him to be friends with the Sacred Heart Palace's deacon? Their statuses were far from each other. However, Hua Yunfeng insisted on saying so. Obviously, he had taken a fancy to the Residence of Nine Supremes' development potential, and had taken the initiative to form a good relationship with it. It was obvious that he had acknowledged the Residence of Nine Supremes' speed of growth. Since the other party wanted to build a good relationship, Yun would not reject it. As the conversation continued, Yun became more receptive. Big Brother Hua, I don't even know how to understand the strength of a sect with a middle-class celestial luck banner. Please enlighten me, Big Brother Hua. I'm not afraid to laugh at you, but I'm also confused about the last sect with a middle-class celestial luck banner. It's only because Golden Cauldron sect wants to go further that I'm motivated to go further. It's really a lucky shot, not because I've planned it in advance. Hua Yunfeng narrowed his eyes and smiled. This little brother Yun is quite tactful. You're too polite, little friend Yun. I won't tell you about these things. You'll know it when you go up there, so I won't be able to enlighten you. Hua Yunfeng first found a dignified excuse for himself. Yun nodded in agreement. But how could Yun not know that there was a huge difference between knowing it one step earlier and one step later? If he knew it now, he would be able to respond earlier. Only then would he know that he would inevitably fall into a passive position. One would take advantage of the situation, while the other would try his best to deal with it. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. The last sect with a middle-class celestial luck banner is called Seven Stars Sect. Coincidentally, the Seven Stars Sect does have some similarities with your Residence of Nine Supremes. For example, the Seven Stars Sect has 7 peaks arranged according to the Big Dipper, and each of the 7 peaks has a peak master. In other words, the Seven Stars Sect has at least 7 Saint King experts. However, these 7 people are not the real experts at the pinnacle of the Seven Stars Sect. As far as I know, there are at least 2 people with even higher seniority than these 7 peak masters. Even further up, there are 2 seniors of even higher seniority who are still alive. And this is only the battle strength displayed on the surface. Little friend Yun is gifted and has reached the current realm at such a young age, which is naturally rare and commendable. However, it will take at least 100 years for cultivators who are slightly less gifted to climb up to the Saint realm or even the level above it. Based on this, if we calculate the lifespan of high-level martial artists, how long will it take for them to reach the level of the 7-star sex management? As for the seniors who are 2 or 3 generations above them, how high would their cultivation base be? These are all things that little friend Yun needs to consider carefully. In all fairness, although the current combat strength of the residents of 9 Supremes is extraordinary, it is still far inferior to the 7-star sect. It is even inferior to the Golden Cauldron sect. Perhaps you really have to thank Beast Trainer sect. Beast Trainer sect's unscrupulous methods have let you know that you can bring mystical beasts into the arena. This has undoubtedly doubled your comprehensive combat strength at least, Hua Yunfeng said lightly. Hua Yunfeng casually said, but if you only rely on this advantage, you won't have much of a chance against the 7-star sect. At least, you won't be as confident of victory as you were before. I speculate that the strongest expert of the 7-star sect should have the strength of a 3rd-grade Saint King. Hua Yunfeng looked at Yun Yang and said word by word, and there is a great chance that he is a 3rd-grade pinnacle expert. He is only 1 step away from entering the 4th grade. Yun Yang frowned and said, please give me some advice, Brother Hua. Hua Yunfeng smiled and stroked his beard. This was a favor that Yun Yang had given him. As long as he gave an explanation, he would be considered to have formed a good relationship with the residents of 9 Supremes. After all, it was not an ordinary explanation, and it would directly affect the outcome of the battle. Judging from Yun Yang's approach, it was obvious that he really intended to make friends with him. Otherwise, he would not have given it to him so casually. Let me think about it, Hua Yunfeng said. We're still on the road, so it's not against the rules to tell you something. But once we go up there, I can't say anything, not even a word more. Thank you, Brother Hua. Yun Yang said gratefully. The residents of 9 Supremes will forever remember Brother Hua's help today. We dare not forget it for even a day. Hua Yunfeng smiled with satisfaction. When you face the 7-star sect, you need to consider the deployment of high-end combat strength, such as the Battle of Backbone, the Battle of Sect Leaders, the Battle of the Peak, and the Battle of Free Will. As for the Battle of Disciples and the Battle of Formations, you still have the help of Saint King mystical beasts, so you will still win. Chapter 11-19. But if you want to win all the matches, your chances are slim, or perhaps I should say, impossible. Hua Yunfeng reminded him softly. In fact, when you come to the middle-class Celestial Luck Banner sect, you only need to win once, that is, 3 matches, and you will win. There's no need to pursue too much. Yun Yang nodded and asked, Brother Hua, apart from the fact that the 7-star sect's high-end combat strength is far superior to ours, is there anything else we need to pay attention to? Hua Yunfeng smiled and said, Of course there is, but your residents of 9 Supremes has an advantage in their most eye-catching aspect. Oh, why do you say so, Brother Hua? Yun Yang asked in surprise. Hua Yunfeng smiled and said, Speaking of which, the 7-star sect has been able to stand at the bottom of the middle-class Celestial Luck Banner sects for so many years not only because of their outstanding strength, but also because their sect's cornerstone formation, the 7 Stars Assembly. This formation has always been known to be invincible among the middle-class Celestial Luck Banner sects, and it's quite similar to the Thousand Mountain sect you've faced before. The advantage I'm talking about is that the 7-star sect doesn't know your background, and the 7 Stars Assembly is a great weapon that they have never lost to. In a battle where they don't know your strength, they will definitely use the 7 Stars Assembly formation. So, of course, you'll win the match. After this match, you still need to win 2 more matches. In my opinion, it's very likely that they'll send their disciples to fight because their disciples are undoubtedly stronger than yours in terms of cultivation base. They're also older and more experienced. Their temperaments are also extraordinarily tough. On the other hand, your senior executives, including the Demiurge Flawed 10, are people who have experienced many hardships and are indomitable. Instead, it's possible that they'll fail miserably in an easy task. So they won't choose to take risks and will prioritize the safest strategy and tactics, and the match of disciples is undoubtedly their first choice. But there's another key to this, and that's the order. Well, it's actually the trump card of Residents of Nine Supremes, the mystical beasts. For example, if the other side loses in the match of disciples, they will definitely be alarmed and adjust the follow-up. So try not to expose the trump card of mystical beasts when you can. Once it's exposed, your original advantage will be gone, and your odds of winning will be greatly reduced. Hua Yunfeng's voice was very heavy. Yunyang frowned deep in thought. If he didn't use his Xian beasts, then he would have to rely on his own strength to fight 1 or 2 battles. Moreover, he would have to win at least 1 battle. This doesn't seem too good. After listening to Hua Yunfeng's shallow definition of the strength of the 7-star sect and all the sects with middle-class celestial luck banners, it almost overturned Yunyang's previous understanding of these sections. He hesitated and found it hard to make a decision. Also, the 7-star sect has been in the middle rank for a long time, so I think it's very likely that they won't immediately propose a disciple fight or a group fight. Because they need to intimidate you from the root. In order to achieve this, it was necessary to send out a high-ranked combat strength at the first instance. This was the only way to ensure that the deterrent effect would be achieved, and this kind of strategy was either a mid-tier battle or a pinnacle battle. It must be one of the two. Yunyang nodded slowly. That makes sense. In the current situation, no matter if it's the Battle of the Peak, the Battle of the Sect Leader, or the Battle of the Backbone, as long as you can win one of the battles, then use the Battle of Formations to win. In addition to the Battle of the Disciples, send out the Xian beasts to catch them off guard, and win 2 out of 3 battles. Hua Yunfeng said, apart from that, it's hard to find another chance to win. However, this is just my wishful thinking, and it's hard to say for sure. What happens after that still depends on your luck. If we're lucky and the opponent arranges their forces according to our speculation, Residents of Nine Supremes will naturally have a great chance of winning. If not, then, it's hard to say the result. Hua Yunfeng did not lower his voice, so everyone from Residents of Nine Supremes heard him. Everyone fell silent. The fact that the 7-star sect, which Golden Cauldron sect thought was in the bag, was so difficult to deal with was obviously beyond everyone's expectation. Yunyang frowned and pondered, his eyes flickering with uncertainty. It's too passive and too illusory to expect the 7-star sect to arrange their forces like this, but we can create a certain illusion to lure them to do as we expect. Now that we know their strengths and weaknesses, if we can't make use of them, we'll miss the opportunity for nothing. Let me think. What can I do to make the 7-star sect arrange their forces according to my idea? This is a big problem. No, at least not for Yunyang. But no matter what, this battle is not so simple. Hua Yunfeng said with a smile. As for Green Dragon Hall, which ranks 8th among the middle-class celestial luck banners, I suggest you don't challenge them for the time being, at least not this time. With your current victory, defeating the 7-star sect is basically your limit. You'd better choose to gain a firm foothold in the middle-class celestial luck banners first. The 7-star sect is really just the weakest sect among the middle-class celestial luck banners. After saying that, Hua Yunfeng gave Yunyang a meaningful look. Yunyang nodded and said respectfully, "Thank you for your advice, Brother Hua. It's indeed a little rash for me to climb to the top and challenge again this time. I was probably stimulated by Golden Cauldron sect's intention to challenge a higher level, so I'm eager for quick success. I didn't know that the strength of a middle-class celestial luck banner sect is so strong. If I can defeat the 7-star sect by luck, it will be the biggest advantage, so I don't dare to be greedy anymore. Besides, the ranking of the middle-class celestial luck banner sect doesn't make much difference to me. If I can't be promoted to the top disciple or even the top class in one go, 2nd or 9th is nothing more than a title." Cough, cough. Hua Yunfeng coughed violently. When he heard the first half of Yunyang's words, he felt gratified that the young man was teachable, but the more he listened, the more he felt something was wrong. That's not what I meant. This sect leader of the Residents of Nine Supremes is actually so ambitious. He actually thinks that as long as he challenges them, he must challenge from the bottom to the top, or he might as well not challenge them at all. What kind of logic is this? What kind of confidence does he have? Who gave you the courage to say that? Does he really think that you are the protagonist in a novel, who will fight wherever you point and is invincible? But when he thought about it again and recalled the scene of the Residents of Nine Supremes challenging the lower-class celestial luck banner, Hua Yunfeng could not help grumbling in his heart, If we rush to the middle-class celestial luck banner and get the blessing of the banner, will this residence of 9 supremes make great progress in 3 years? Will it really become the top disciple of the middle-class celestial luck banner? Or even the supreme-class celestial luck banner? Chapter 11:20. Hua Yunfeng thought about it again. Although it was almost impossible when one thought about it carefully, there was still a chance. The celestial luck banner had just been established not long ago, yet a young man of just 20, the infamous demiurge flawed 10, and a bunch of kids were already pointing at them as the first seat of a lower-class celestial luck banner. Who knew if there would be an even greater surprise 3 years later? It was also because he had taken a fancy to their providence that he was so kind to them. As he thought about it, Hua Yunfeng could not help but say, "Young friend Yun, could there be some misunderstanding? Do you really think it is as easy as rising to the top of the lower-class celestial luck banner? Perhaps it is because you are strong enough that you have neglected the fact that there is a great difference in the strength of sex with lower-class celestial luck banners, and it is even more so between sex with middle-class celestial luck banners. There is often a great gap between a single rank, and the gap between the two is as wide as heaven and earth, so you must not take it lightly. The advancement of middle-class celestial luck banners is not as easy as the progress of your class. The luck of the mystical beasts assisting you can only be used after the battle with the 7-star sect is over at most. If you use it after that, it may become the main reason for your own defeat." Hua Yunfeng said seriously. "Yes, I fully understand this point. Thank you again for your teachings, Big Brother Hua." Yun Yang's face was full of humility as he accepted the advice humbly and said, "Big Brother Hua, have we arrived?" Everyone turned to look and saw a door in front of them. After stepping up a step, they entered the door. From a distance, they saw another platform, and its structure was exactly the same as the second level. After stepping up, he found that it was like going back in time. Wasn't this the scene when he had just stepped onto the second level? He did not know if it was to confirm his thoughts, but what he saw in front of him was a high platform, and on it was the golden celestial luck banner of the Sacred Heart Palace. On both sides of the platform were 5 sects, and on the other side were 4. Everything he saw was exactly the same as before, except that the sects were different. Well, there was one thing different from before, and it was that almost no one was paying attention to the arrival of their own sect. Because shockingly, there were 2 people fighting in the battlefield. The 2 of them were fighting with great momentum. Basically, everyone was paying attention to this fierce battle. Naturally, no one noticed that at this time, there were actually other sects coming up. Before everyone had time to speak, Jiang Luoluo suddenly exclaimed in shock, "That's senior brother Qi, why? Is it, our Phoenix Cry sect is having a promotion battle?" Yun Yang and Luo Dajiang's spirits were lifted when they heard that, and they looked over. In the field, a tall and slender young man wielding a long sword waved it to his heart's content. Tens of thousands of silver lights moved with the sword, advancing and retreating in a controlled manner. His movements were orderly, and his movements were as he wished. It was like a phoenix was spreading its wings and flying, and its surroundings were filled with heavenly light and flowing flames. The opponent he was facing at this moment was a white-clothed young man with a slender and flexible sword in his hand. His moves were filled with ease and calmness. Judging from the situation of the battle, the 2 men were evenly matched, and it seemed that there was still a chance for them to fight. At least, so far, neither of them looked flustered or flustered, and there were no beads of sweat on their faces. Obviously, the battle had just begun. "Wait here for a moment," Hua Yunfeng said. "I have to go and hand over the matter with the host here." With that said, he flew up into the air and flew toward the high platform directly opposite him. Yun Yang watched as Hua Yunfeng flew away. With just a glance, he was already shocked. He saw that Hua Yunfeng's movements were like a ghost. He had clearly passed directly through the battlefield, but the 2 men in the battle did not notice him at all. Even the countless people from various sects who were watching could not see through his movements and stop. Yun Yang had experienced the battle of ascending the low-class celestial luck banner and won successive victories. Although he was not arrogant and complacent, he was still in high spirits. Although he had agreed to Hua Yunfeng's advice, he had made up his mind to see the 7-star sect's true strength first before making a conclusion. How could he be so sure that his true strength was not as good as the 7-star sect from the very beginning? But now, when he saw Hua Yunfeng's superb movement technique, he was inexplicably shocked. He sighed inwardly and thought that he had won successive battles, but in the end, He had been too careless and underestimated the heroes of the world. He must deal with the battle of the Seven-Star Sect with all his strength later, and must not be careless or negligent. On the high platform, a man dressed in clothes similar to Hua Yunfeng laughed and said, "Brother Hua, why do you have time to come here? What a rare guest." Hua Yunfeng smiled and said, "Long time no see, Brother Pu. How have you been?" The bearded man scolded with a smile, "You've been carrying me for a long time. Damn it. You just drank wine half a month ago." The two men sitting on either side of Brother Pu also laughed. Hua Yunfeng chuckled and said, "As the saying goes, a day apart is like 3 autumns. For me, half a month is almost like not seeing each other for 40 to 50 years. How can I not miss you?" Brother Pu laughed angrily and said, "Bullshit. You black-hearted old bastard. You say you miss me, but you're actually thinking about my supreme-grade spirit jades, aren't you? Half a month ago, you just won $20 from me last time. My heart ached so much that I couldn't sleep for half a month." Hua Yunfeng laughed and said, "I'm here this time to give Brother Pu a chance to win back your losses." Brother Pu's name was Pu Deshuang. His heart skipped a beat when he heard that, and he asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" Hua Yunfeng chuckled, pointed at the opposite side, and said, "It's my turn to preside over the low-grade celestial luck banners. The chief sect over there plans to go one step further and wants to challenge the middle-grade celestial luck banners. Isn't this a good opportunity?" Pu Deshuang was displeased and said angrily, "Do you think I'm stupid? How many low-grade sects have succeeded in challenging the middle-grade sects over the years? Tell me. You actually used this to trick me into falling into your trap. You actually dared to shamelessly say that the opportunity to make a comeback has come. I won't fall for your evil trick. I can't believe you're using this to deceive me and even said that the chance to win back my losses has come. I'm not going to fall for your wicked trick." Hua Yunfeng said unhappily, "Pu Deshuang, your words are always as vulgar as your name. The most important thing in gambling is fairness. I didn't specify which sect you have to bet on, so how is that deceiving you? My way of gambling is to let you bet on one side first and leave the other side to me. Isn't that fair enough?" Pu Deshuang folded his arms and looked at Hua Yunfeng suspiciously. "How can a black-hearted ghost like you be so kind? You want to make a fair bet? I have a feeling that you've dug a pit and are waiting for me to jump into it. There must be a reason behind this, right?" Hua Yunfeng chuckled. "There's no other reason. By the way, I'll let you pick whichever side you like first, but I have to decide the odds. I can't let you take all the advantages, can I?" Pu Deshuang was stunned for a moment, and then he said, "If that's all, it's really fair. Are you really willing to bet like this?" Hua Yunfeng rolled his eyes and said, "Are you done yet? Can't you just tell me if you want to bet or not? You can play if you want to or not. I'm already so old, and I'm just playing with you for fun. Look at your bum face. If you don't want to play, then forget it. Anyway, they're already here. So hurry up and host the follow-up. I'll go to the side and watch the fun. I'm sick of looking at your tired face." As he spoke, he sat down with a smile. Pu Deshuang immediately looked a little embarrassed, but he was still a little hesitant. He said suspiciously, "It's not that I don't want to play. It's mainly because you're not trustworthy." He scratched his head with a bitter look on his face. "I've already lost 80 yuan from the 3 of us just now, so I'm really running out of money." Hua Yunfeng chuckled and said, "Forget it then. Is the battle between the Phoenix Cry sect and the Daluo sect?" "That's right," Pu Deshuang said. "The General Commerce Alliance, which originally ranked first, has gone to the upper grade side to fight, while the Phoenix Cry sect, which originally ranked third, has been tempted to replace the second-ranked Daluo sect and ascend to the chief position." Pu Deshuang thought for a moment and said, "Well, it seems that the Phoenix Cry sect is very optimistic about the General Commerce Alliance. They are looking forward to the General Commerce Alliance knocking down one of the upper-grade celestial luck banners, and then they will follow up their victory." Pu Deshuang was taken aback. "I've known that you're a black-hearted ghost, but I didn't realize that your eyes are so penetrating. You can see through everything at a glance." Hua Yunfeng snorted and rolled his eyes, thinking, "There's a Golden Cauldron sect with the same idea right now, ready to strike. I was disgusted by their foresight and unwavering determination for a long time just now. It would be strange if I couldn't guess it now." As they spoke, the atmosphere of the battle in the field grew more intense. The senior brother Qi mentioned by Jiang Luoluo became more and more courageous as the battle went on. Shadows of his sword flashed and whistled like a gust of wind. Basically, every strike was accompanied by a beam of misty green light that was filled with the vast power of heaven and earth. Yun Yang knew that this was the symbol of a saint-level cultivator's combat strength, and it was also another form of the so-called heaven and earth cage. The white-clothed young man opposite him did not show any weakness either. His flexible sword was straight, and when it turned, it was like a violent storm. Accompanied by a vast dimensional force, he launched a series of counterattacks. Both of them displayed their divine abilities and exerted their full strength. Countless forces of space collided with each other in the field under the control of the two men, crushing and shattering. After a while, the battle gradually reached its climax, and the outcome was about to be decided. On the left side of the main spectator stand, the Phoenix Cry sect's leader, Ping Zhanyue, secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This was already the third battle, and in this battle, her direct disciple had taken the initiative and was turning it into an advantage. As long as this advantage was turned into a victory, the battle would be won. Beside her was a white-clothed woman with a tall figure, black hair that flowed down like a waterfall, and a picturesque appearance. However, although this white-clothed woman's appearance was extremely pretty, it was filled with an icy cold feeling. It was as if one was facing an iceberg, and it was so cold that no one dared to approach her. She was as beautiful as a peach and as cold as ice. At this moment, the woman was staring at the entrance of the field with a slight frown. "Senior sister, look at the girl at the entrance. Isn't that Luoluo?" Ping Zhanyue raised her head slightly and looked in the direction of the voice. A hint of joy immediately appeared on her face as she said, "It's Luoluo. Why did this girl come at this time? I was just worrying about which female disciple the Fifth War should send to fight. If Luoluo doesn't come, none of the other female disciples will have the confidence to win. Her arrival at this time is really a blessing from heaven. Heaven is protecting our Phoenix Cry sect." The white-clothed woman was the great elder of Phoenix Cry sect, Gon Tianyan. She frowned and said, "It's a great fortune for our sect that Luoluo has come at this time. But I wonder if she..." As she spoke, the trace of amiability on her face froze, and a layer of frost covered her pretty face. She gritted her teeth and said word by word, "The big guy beside her. Isn't he Luo Dajiang of the Demiurge Flawed 10? Luoluo still found him, and now she's with him?" Then she snorted heavily and said, "I'm so angry." Before her voice had died away, she had already flashed out. With a soft swoosh, her slender and delicate body had already traversed 30,000 feet and landed in front of the residence of 9 Supreme's people. Yun Yang and the others were watching the fierce battle in the field, their eyes solemn and focused. Looking at the two people who were fighting in the field, Yun Yang and the others had mixed feelings. The reason was obvious. Neither of these two people's cultivation base was weaker than theirs, and their tactics, strategies, cultivation techniques, movement techniques, were much better than Luo Dajiang and the others. Even with the residents of 9 Supreme's current strength, Yun Yang alone would not be at a disadvantage if he were to fight these two men. As for the others, including Xueqi and Luo Dajiang, none of them was a match for these two men. On the other hand, these two people were only disciples of sects with middle-class celestial luck banners, and their status was only at the same level as Yun Xiuxin, Bai Yexing, and the others. Although these two people were elite disciples, the gap seemed to be a little too big. Thinking about it, above these two there were many more powerful people. Even if they didn't include the sect leader, there were at least a few elders of the same generation. Strong. Really strong. Unexpectedly strong. Yun Yang breathed a soft sigh of relief and murmured, "It seems that if I want to reach the top of the middle-class celestial luck banners, the buffer of 3 years is indispensable." Before Yun Yang finished his words, he suddenly found the space in front of him blurred for a moment, and then a tall figure appeared in front of the people of residence of 9 Supremes like an illusion. The newcomer was covered in ice and snow, and his face was cold. "Luoluo, come back with me." Gon Tianyan's expressionless face was full of ruthlessness and impertinence. Zhang Luoluo was nervous. "Master, come back with me." Gon Tianyan glanced at Luo Dajiang with a hint of killing intent on her face and said coldly, "Luo Dajiang, it's time for you to wake up from your dream." Luo Dajiang said in a deep voice, "I've stopped dreaming a long time ago. I only have a path ahead of me for the rest of my life, and I've just started on my previous path. Gan Tianyan sneered. You've just started on your previous path? Your future will be in vain. Don't you understand that the reality is like this? How can a person like you have a future? Yun Yang, who was standing to the side, interrupted at the right time. Senior Gan is so aggressive. It's not the demeanor of a senior. Everyone has the right to work hard and move forward, and Dajiang's current path is a smooth one. He only needs to move forward steadily. Yun Yang smiled. That's the reality, that's how life is. Gan Tianyan did not bother to hide her mocking smile. She did not even look at Yun Yang as she asked coldly, "Who are you?" Yun Yang stood with his hands clasped behind his back. I'm Yun Yang, the leader of Residents of Nine Supremes. And Luo Dajiang is now the leader of the third peak of Residents of Nine Supremes, the third most powerful person in the Residents of Nine Supremes. Haha. Residents of Nine Supremes, leader of a peak, the third most powerful person? What a great title. What a high status. What a glorious future. Gan Tianyan sneered. But I've never heard of the Residents of Nine Supremes. Do you have a celestial luck banner? Yun Yang chuckled. Residents of Nine Supremes is currently the chief disciple of a lower-class celestial luck banner. As for us coming here and standing here, it means that we're about to have a middle-class celestial luck banner in our hands, just like you. Gan Tianyan was finally moved. Turning his head, he asked, "Are you here to challenge us?" Yun Yang smiled proudly and said faintly, "I don't blame Senior Gan for not knowing the name of Residents of Nine Supremes. After all, before I came to Mount Pentatir, I was just a lowly sect that had not been established for long and did not have a celestial luck banner. But ever since I came here, I've been fighting my way up. It only took me 3 days to become the chief disciple of a lower-class celestial luck banner from a lowly sect. And now, we're going to start attacking the middle-class celestial luck banner. I wonder if such a road ahead can be considered a smooth one." Yun Yang said slowly, enunciating each word. As he spoke, everyone in the Residence of Nine Supremes wore a proud look on their faces. The little fellows puffed out their chests even higher. There was no doubt that this achievement was enough to explain too many problems. In the bound of universe, the strongest fist made the most sense, and this truth applied everywhere. Even with Gan Tianyan's background and experience, he was shocked. Is this really your first time participating in the Celestial Luck Banner competition? You were just a lowly sect before? Chapter 11:21. That's right. Didn't you mention just now that the sect has just been established? It's been less than a year. Xueqi snorted, his expression already showing a hint of impoliteness. As for this old fellow who had interfered in his brother's marriage, well, although she didn't look old at all from her appearance, and she was very young and beautiful, Xueqi didn't have a good impression of her at all just from her tone and manner of speaking, which was filled with arrogance and seniority. However, Gan Tianyan was not angry at all at this moment. It wasn't that she was unperturbed, but that she had been shocked by what the crowd had said. Even though Phoenix Cry sect was ranked in the top 3 of the middle-class Celestial Luck Banner sects, even though its elite disciples were stronger than the second and third figures in the Residence of Nine Supremes, even though her own strength was more profound and she might be able to destroy the current Residence of Nine Supremes with her own strength, she was still shocked by this series of explosive information. She did not doubt the authenticity of what Yun Yang and others said, because this matter could not stand any scrutiny at all. Gan Tianyan knew that all this should be true. But because of this, the shock in Gan Tianyan's heart grew stronger. A sect that had just been established for less than a year and was only participating in the Celestial Luck Banner competition for the first time. It had swept away all the lower-class Celestial Luck Banner sects along the way, directly ascended to the position of the lower-class chief, and then appeared at the entrance of the middle-class competition, intending to challenge and go further. Gan Tianyan knew better than anyone what this meant. Even though the Residence of Nine Supremes was still a greenhorn, it still had unparalleled potential. For a sect like this, no one could determine where their limits were. As for Luo Dajiang, as the third figure in this sect, his future was not only smooth, but extremely glorious and limitless. Only then did Gan Tianyan begin to size up the people of the Residence of Nine Supremes. The more she looked at them, the more solemn her eyes became, and her heart began to hang in her throat. This knowledge had already caused a subversive shock to Gan Tianyan. When she looked at the people of the residence of 9 Supremes one by one, she was even more shocked. Now that they were within the boundary of the fifth heaven, he could not tell the depth of their cultivation base, but Yunyang and Xueqi, as well as Luo Dajiang and the others whom he did not even look in the eye, were all full of vigor, their skin as smooth as jade, their eyes clear and distinct. This is an innate body? And it's a perfect body that can endure the constant cleansing of spiritual energy? Gong Tianyan's eyes lit up when she saw the 10 young men and women behind them. No matter which one of these 10 boys and girls, they all had excellent physiques. Be it spirit, energy, physique, meridians, innate talent. With just a glance, they were all top-notch. A few of them, in particular, had transcendent bodies that were rarely seen even in 100 or even 1,000 years. They were all flawless. The jade knife Gong Tianyan's eyes were filled with envy when he saw these 10 disciples. How did this little-known residents of 9 Supremes have such luck to be able to gather so many talents and beauties in their hands? What kind of luck was this? What kind of destiny was this? Gong Tianyan's expression unconsciously softened, but his behavior and attitude were obviously unrepentant. After all, his previous words were too harsh. Now that he had changed to a pleasant expression, it would seem that he had changed from arrogance to deference, and that he was looking down on others. With Gong Tianyan's status and personal standpoint, it was difficult for him to back down. However, in the face of a potential sect like the residents of 9 Supremes, even the Phoenix Cry sect could not suppress it for too long with its current growth speed, unless it was destroyed once and for all. Gong Tianyan knew very well how terrifyingly fast the improvement of the disciples was with the help of the spiritual qi raised by the middle-class celestial luck banner. The residents of 9 Supremes had been able to come all the way without the celestial luck banner. Once it obtained the blessing of the middle-class celestial luck banner, its spiritual qi would increase by 6 times. What kind of concept would that be? Yunyang saw the change in the man's expression and understood at once. His expression turned unusually gentle and kind, like he was facing a family member. He said softly, "Actually, I've had a deep conversation with Luo and Dajiang before I came. To be honest, I personally understand and admire Senior's actions. Senior has put in a lot of effort, wholeheartedly for your disciples, and would even rather bear a bad reputation. This is not something an ordinary master can do. This junior sincerely admires you." Gong Tianyan coughed dryly. Apart from feeling uneasy, he also felt a little guilty. His face flushed as he looked at Yunyang, obviously waiting for him to continue. He felt even more ashamed. Am I so good? What did he say? Why don't I understand? Am I wholeheartedly for Luo? It seems so. But it doesn't seem so. To be honest, if I were you, Senior, I wouldn't agree to their marriage either. Yunyang's face was full of understanding as he said with a smile, "As a master, taking in a disciple is like taking in a daughter. When a daughter wants to find a husband, as a master, of course, I have to consider the best for her, lest my daughter suffer a loss after she marries." Luo Dajiang was originally just a wandering martial artist. He didn't come from a sect, didn't have the capital to settle down, and didn't even have a good reputation. It's not an exaggeration to say that he was precarious. Gong Tianyan nodded repeatedly when he said this. Obviously, what Yunyang had said was exactly what she wanted. Although it was not completely in line with her original intention, it was fundamentally the same. As a disciple of a middle-class celestial luck banner sect and an outstanding talent among the disciples, Luo's future is limitless. It's too extravagant to talk about the future in this life when she follows such a wandering martial artist with no future. Yunyang waved his hand and said sternly, "If I were you, Senior, I wouldn't agree to see my own disciple fall into depravity no matter what. As a master, I have to think for my disciple, think about her future and her life. She's still young, and it's inevitable for young people to be impulsive. This momentary impulse could ruin her life. As a master, it's my duty and responsibility to guide her in the right direction." Gong Tianyan nodded silently. Therefore, this marriage that's destined to have no future can never be agreed to. From a long-term perspective, it's almost foreseeable that Luo's cultivation base will reach a very high level based on her identity as a master and the sect. It's not a big deal for her to live for a few thousand years. But Luo Dajiang, even if he dies of old age, without the blessing of the sect's providence, it's basically the limit for him to live for 1,000 years. How will my disciple spend her single years? Will she wash her face with tears every day? Yun Yang's voice was sonorous and emotional. A well-matched match is a very utilitarian saying, but it's also the most realistic truth. Young people can't think of it, but as teachers, we can't not think of it. Because we have the responsibility and obligation to give them a bright future. Don't you think so, Senior Gon? Gon Tianyan nodded repeatedly. Yes, you're absolutely right. These are my heartfelt words. Chapter 11:22. This was Gon Tianyan's heartfelt words. In fact, that was what she thought, but she did not have Yun Yang's ability to organize her words, let alone speak so fluently and thought-provoking. Therefore, when she heard Yun Yang's words, she felt that Yun Yang was her bosom friend. Every word he said had touched the bottom of her heart. Therefore, Senior's previous disapproval and obstruction were all for the sake of his disciple. No one has the right to say anything about this. Even if we stand as friends and are very dissatisfied with Senior, we still don't have the right to say it to Senior. This is also a problem that we, who have just become teachers, must consider and even face in the future. Everyone has the same heart and the same principle. We must understand it, and we must understand it thoroughly. Yun Yang said seriously. Gon Tianyan heaved a long sigh and looked at Zhang Luoluo lovingly. She smiled bitterly and said, "This girl is too silly. She only sees what's in front of her. To put it nicely, it's sentimental, but it's also willful and reckless. In any case, I'd rather she resent me now than see her live the rest of her life miserably." Yun Yang smiled and said, "Let me repeat myself here. I completely understand Senior's thoughts and actions. Even if my disciples were to be in a similar situation in the future, they might very well follow Senior's example. It's just that the situation now is different from the past. Today, Luo Dajiang is already the third most powerful person in the residence of 9 Supremes, and we're about to become a middle-class celestial luck banner sect. All these obstacles no longer exist. After all, in terms of the sect's identity, Luo is inferior. Don't you think so? Luo Dajiang is the leader of a middle-class sect, while Luo is only a disciple of a middle-class sect, am I right? The key point that worries you the most is that Luo Dajiang's future achievements are also gone now, because his future is equally bright. So, the obstacles that prevented them from being together in the past really don't exist at all. Yun Yang said with a smile. I believe that Senior should feel very gratified about this. After all, it's a great kindness to both you and others. Gon Tianyan sighed and said, what Leader Yun said does make sense. Since the residence of 9 Supremes has such achievements, I won't be a villain in vain. But, she pondered for a moment and said, I have a condition. Only with this condition will the barrier between them truly disappear. Yun Yang said, please elaborate, Senior. Gon Tianyan said, just now, Supreme Yun also said that your mansion is about to become a sect with a mid-class celestial luck banner, which means that it hasn't been done yet. If you can successfully ascend to the mid-class this time, I won't interfere in this matter anymore. But if your strength isn't enough and you can't succeed, then this matter needs to be considered at length. Yun Yang nodded. Thank you, Senior, for your understanding. This matter is settled, and I agree on behalf of the two of them. If our mansion is unable to advance to the middle rank in the end, how can we have the face to mention marriage? How could Yun Yang not know that Gon Tianyan no longer had any intention of disagreeing? She only needed to step down because of her pride. These words were just to give herself a way out of this embarrassing situation. Gon Tianyan smiled and said, with Leader Yun's guarantee, why would I have any doubts? However, Luo has to return with me first. We don't have much confidence in the last battle of the sex promotion battle this time. Luo has come at the right time. Zhang Luo looked at Gon Tianyan hesitantly and said, Master, you won't go back on your word, will you? Zhang Luo swallowed half of her sentence. Gon Tianyan smiled and said in annoyance, silly girl. Hurry up and come with me. Yun Yang added, don't worry, sister-in-law. Your master is an upright person, and his words carry enormous weight. If he really wants to break us up, he can just drag you away. How can he? I'll definitely remind Dajiang to marry you as soon as possible after this. This etiquette can't be ignored. Zhang Luo turned around and grabbed Luo Dajiang, saying, Dajiang, listen carefully. You can't lose this battle. If you lose and delay me from becoming a bride, I'll beat you to death. Everyone was stunned by this. Gon Tianyan grabbed Jiang Luolua with a dark expression and bade farewell before flying away. Although it was awkward for him to change his attitude from arrogance to humility, it was not as good as his disciple's bold words. It made him feel even more ashamed. What kind of disciple did I teach? It's as if he's afraid that he won't be able to get married. He even used force to threaten me. Was there a need to? Once he left, Luo Dajiang opened his mouth and uttered word by word, I won't lose. Where is he? Yun Yang covered his face. Tai Qing, Song, Shi Wuchen, Ren Qingquang, Lan Ruojuan, Kong Luoyue, and the others gave Yun Yang a thumbs up. Boss Eloquence is amazing. It's all thanks to Boss Eloquence. If Boss's cultivation base could reach 30% of his eloquence, he'd be a rarity in the entire bound of universe. Isn't that right? If it weren't for Boss, Dajiang's wife would probably have to suffer for a few more years. That's right, that's right. Boss's eloquence is great. Yun Yang was exasperated. Shut up, all of you. Hurry up and get ready. Whoever makes a mistake later, see if I don't kill him. Everyone burst out laughing. At this point, Luo Dajiang finally put down a big stone in his heart, and a sense of relief welled up in him. Phoenix Cry Sect. On the high platform, Pu Deshuang, as the handler, was learning about the situation of the residents of Nine Supremes. On the other platform, Ping Jinyue, the leader of Phoenix Cry Sect, was also learning about the residents of Nine Supremes, but neither Pu Deshuang nor Ping Jinyue knew much. Pu Deshuang was a little better. After all, he had Hua Yunfeng by his side. During the handover process, he had learned some of the stories of the residents of Nine Supremes, as well as the qualifications for the current position. After all, it was already very rare to have the first place with a lower-class celestial luck banner and the right to challenge the last place with a middle-class celestial luck banner. How is it? Ping Jinyue asked Gon Tianyan directly. To be honest, Ping Jinyue was a little afraid now. Gon Tianyan had gone there in a fit of anger just now, and it was inevitable that a fight would break out at the slightest disagreement. With Gon Tianyan's cultivation base and strength, there was no need to worry about her safety. However, since the people of the residents of Nine Supremes were qualified to come to the third level of the fifth peak, where sects with middle-class celestial luck banners gathered, they must have some background. It was certainly inappropriate to act rashly. Now that Gon Tianyan had returned peacefully with Jiang Luoluo, and even her cold aura was gone, she was more doubtful than before. There are other variables in this matter. I'll explain it to you later. Don't worry, it's a good thing, not a bad thing. The expression on Gon Tianyan's face was a little complicated. It was probably because her mind was a little muddled at the moment. How could I be persuaded so easily? I've never been the kind of person who would listen to others. Genius 1 second to remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 1123. Was it just because of the shock brought about by the residents of Nine Supremes? Yes, it was indeed a little too much. After a while, Gon Tianyan carefully thought about how to phrase her words. Then, she used an unusually complicated tone to tell her sect leader about this matter. As she spoke, she saw her senior sister, who had always been calm, slowly open her mouth. Her eyes were filled with disbelief just like before. The battle in the field was still going on. As long as no one was greedy, it would still take a considerable amount of time to determine the winner and loser, even if the upper hand was clear. However, the advantage of Phoenix Cry Sect's disciples was becoming more and more obvious, and the outcome was difficult to reverse. Ping Zhenyue was no longer concerned about it, and her mind was filled with things related to the residents of Nine Supremes. It had only been less than a year since the establishment of the sect, or rather, less than a year ago. Yet, they had gathered all the Demiurge Flawed 10 and achieved great things. They had obtained the qualification for the lower-class Celestial Luck Banner as soon as they started the battle, and they had advanced rapidly all the way to become the current top of the lower-class Celestial Luck Banner. Although the depth of their cultivation base could not be seen for the time being, there must be some other reason for them to be able to fight to the top of the lower class with only the Demiurge Flawed 10 as the main force. At least, based on the information from Phoenix Cry Sect, the Demiurge Flawed 10's past strength would never have been able to do so. This other reason was probably that while they were building the sect, they were busy teaching their disciples, and at the same time, they had made rapid progress in their own cultivation base. Finally, they had reached their current realm. They had stood out among the lower-class celestial luck banner sects. Just based on these words alone, no matter how you put it, it sounded like bragging, but it was the truth, the unquestionable truth. Luo, how many disciples does the residence of 9 Supremes have now? Did you bring all of them with you? Asked Ping Zhenyue. There was a deeper meaning in Ping Zhenyue's words. Gan Tianyan had just mentioned to her in a serious tone that apart from Supreme Yunyang and the Demiurge Flawed 10, there were still 10 incredibly talented junior disciples in the residence of 9 Supremes group. Ping Zhenyue had asked this question to find out if Yunyang was lucky enough to have found a batch of unknown genius disciples somewhere. Zhang Luo thought about it and said, "For now, the residence of 9 Supremes has about 10,000 disciples, right?" She used a tone that didn't sound very sure. 10,000 disciples. Ping Zhenyue and Gan Tianyan were shocked by this number. It was just a newly established sect, yet it had 10,000 disciples. Where did he find all of them? Even our Phoenix Cry sect doesn't have 10,000 disciples. Gan Tianyan's face involuntarily twitched, and he said, Luo, these 10,000 over disciples, are their aptitudes intermingled? Is there anyone else who has the aptitude of the 10 who came this time? It could be said that Gan Tianyan had been suppressing this question for a long time. The truth was that every disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes she had met seemed to be gifted with a natural talent. Every single one of them was so adorable, and their little eyes were truly delightful, filled with intelligence. Each of those disciples had the qualifications to become a true disciple of the Phoenix Cry sect. Gan Tianyan's heart itched when she saw them, and she wished she could take all of them in. Zhang Luo blinked her eyes and said, Master, you must be joking. Disciples like Xueqi and the others are generally talented, but I've only seen that although Residence of 9 Supremes has recruited a large number of disciples, few of them are as talented as Xueqi and the others. In my opinion, the others are mostly above average, and some are even worse. Zhang Luo understood the meaning of her master and uncle master's question very well, so she cleverly played dumb and pulled down the aptitude of the disciples of the Residence of 9 Supremes. If the other disciples were actually very good, and even if they were not as good as Yun Xueqi and the others, they were not far behind. Her master would probably go crazy on the spot, and he might really go to the Residence of 9 Supremes to snatch them away. The Residence of 9 Supremes is my man's base. The disciples there can't be separated. Gan Tianyan nodded and said, That's true. I was thinking too much. How can there be 10,000 geniuses with such aptitude? If it's 1 in 1,000, it's not too ridiculous to pick out 10 outstanding disciples from 10,000 people. Zhang Luo nodded repeatedly and said, Not bad, not bad. Each of the 10 disciples is also 1 in 10,000. Gan Tianyan nodded in satisfaction and said, Little girl, Luo Dezhang has some foundation now. Although he has just started, his future is not bad. I'll make an exception for you and no longer restrict your contact. But there is one thing you need to remember. You will always be a disciple of the Phoenix Cry sect, and the sect is where you come from. Do you understand? Zhang Luo nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Don't worry, master. I will always be a disciple of the Phoenix Cry sect, and the sect is my backer. Before Luo Dezhang, Residence of 9 Supremes is promoted to the top of the middle grade. You can't cross the line. Yes, master. Get ready. Your cultivation base hasn't fallen during this period, has it? Gan Tianyan was a little worried. You will most likely need to fight in the 5th match later. Originally, your junior sister Lu was supposed to go up for this round, but this 5th round is a crucial battle. Our sect needs to win 5 out of 5 matches in order to qualify for the next round. Now that you're back, it's better for you to go up and win. I just don't know if you've been slacking off during this period of time. Zhang Luo smiled confidently and said respectfully, Don't worry, master. I won't embarrass you. As Gan Tianyan's proud disciple and successor, Zhang Luo's ability was not ordinary. Even Luo Dezhang, who had gone to the Residence of 9 Supremes, could not defeat the girl at all. Moreover, Zhang Luo herself felt that during this period of time in the Residence of 9 Supremes, the progress of her cultivation base was not slow at all compared to when she was in her own sect. Furthermore, his own physique seemed to be undergoing a subtle change. This was something that hadn't happened when he was in his own sect. Zhang Luoluo even felt that she had become much smarter. To put it bluntly, as long as Luo Dajiang lied, she could immediately tell. When she was thinking about a problem, she also felt that her brain was working exceptionally fast. That was what the saying, beautiful on the outside, intelligent on the inside meant. Although Gan Tianyan saw that Zhang Luoluo was full of confidence, he was still relieved. After all, Zhang Luoluo had left the Phoenix Cry sect for a long time. The 5th match was about to end, so he had to be careful with the strategy this time. He stretched out his hand and said, "Give me your hand, let me see the progress of your mystical qi." "You lass sigh, you're just lazy. Otherwise, Chapter 11:24. As she spoke, she suddenly exclaimed and stared at Zhang Luoluo's pretty face, observing carefully. At the same time, a stream of pure mystical qi circulated in Zhang Luoluo's meridians. The more she checked, the more surprised she became. In the end, her face was filled with shock. Today was probably the day of Gan Tianyan's accident. A series of accidents came one after another, shocking her. After a while, Gan Tianyan stared at Zhang Luoluo and asked, "Girl, have you encountered any opportunity during this period of time?" Zhang Luoluo looked confused. "Opportunity? What opportunity?" No. Gan Tianyan looked puzzled and surprised. "If not, how could your meridians have widened so much? If not, how could your body's aptitude have changed so much? If not, how could there be no impurities in your body? And why is the barrier of your meridians in a state of gradual melting? Did you accidentally eat something special and ignore it? Think about it." Zhang Luoluo was at a loss. "I really didn't. I've been..." At this point, he suddenly closed his mouth and covered his mouth tightly with one hand. His eyeballs were rolling in circles. "Been?" Gan Tianyan frowned. "In the residence of 9 Supremes?" Zhang Luoluo shook her head repeatedly. "I've always been, always in that. Jianghu, I've always been fighting, roaming the Jianghu and making a name for my Phoenix Cry sect." Gan Tianyan chuckled. "But the information I have shows that you found Luo Dajiang a year ago and have never left his side since then. Is my information wrong?" Zhang Luoluo said anxiously, "It's not a year, I've only found him for less than half a year." "Half a year, haha," Gan Tianyan rolled her eyes. "You've always hated to get married. Since you've found Luo Dajiang, how can you let him go? He's been cultivating in the residence of 9 Supremes for the past half a year, hasn't he? Then you'll definitely stay there. Why would you go anywhere else? Girl, has anyone ever told you that you stutter whenever you lie?" "How could I have a stutter? My speech is very clear. I've been traveling around for more than a year, punishing evil and doing good. I've been contributing to my family and sect. I've never lied. Not even a single word. I don't have a stutter." Gan Tianyan rolled her eyes and said, "Then, has anyone told you that after you lie and explain that you didn't lie, you will often talk non-stop until you can't breathe?" Zhang Luoluo lowered her head dejectedly and mumbled, "Oh, Master, I'm really not lying. If you don't believe me, you can ask Luo Dajiang, you can ask Yun Yang, you can ask Shi Ren Qingquang and the rest. They can all testify that I've really not been in the residence of 9 Supremes during this period of time. I've been traveling the world as my home. Master, you have to believe me." Burp. Ping Jinyue and Gan Tianyan looked at her helplessly. They held their foreheads and sighed. Zhang Luoluo shut her mouth and sighed. Sigh. "When this is over, I have to pay a visit to the residence of 9 Supremes." Gan Tianyan said, "After all, they'll be considered as in-laws in the future. I'll go and visit them to observe this girl's marriage." Ping Jinyue said, "All right. I'll try to find time to go with you when the time comes." The two sisters looked at each other and saw the understanding in each other's eyes. There must be something strange about the residence of 9 Supremes' rapid rise and the change in Luoluo's physique. How could they turn a blind eye to it? At that moment, there was a loud bang in the field. A figure stumbled out. It was senior brother Qi. Although he was staggering, he was not fatally injured. However, his opponent, the youth in white, was already dead on the ground. Phoenix Cry sect had won. On the high platform, Pu Deshuang said loudly, Phoenix Cry sect wins 3rd place. Currently, they have won 3 out of 3 matches. Next is the match of sect leaders. On the opposite side, the faces of everyone from Zenith Heaven's sect were ashen. 3 matches and 3 defeats meant that their original position was gone. There was no point in continuing the battle, but the entire Zenith Heaven sect was filled with a solemn and stirring air. Their fighting spirit was unprecedentedly high. Pu Deshuang's voice was loud and clear. After this match, there will be another match. The residents of 9 Supremes, the chief disciple of the lower-class Celestial Luck Banner, wishes to challenge those who have ascended to the middle-class Celestial Luck Banner. 7 Stars Sect, which ranks last among the middle-class Celestial Luck Banners, please prepare for the match. As soon as he said that, everyone in 7 Stars Sect, which ranked last among the middle-class sects, changed their expressions, their thoughts inexplicable. A lower class challenging a middle-class sect. How could such a rare thing happen this year? It was not that they had not heard of it before. It was said that the original chief disciple of the lower-class, Golden Cauldron sect, wanted to challenge the middle class's last place. When they saw that it was not someone from Golden Cauldron sect who came, they were initially relieved. Why was it changed to residents of 9 Supremes? What was going on? They had not heard of any residents of 9 Supremes among the original 9 lower-class sects. Where did this residence of 9 Supremes come from? How did he become the chief disciple of the lower class and obtain the qualification to challenge the middle class last place? The next match was between Phoenix Cry sect's Ping Zhanyue and Zenith Heaven sect's leader, He Shansong. Both sides displayed their remarkable abilities and were evenly matched. The battle was in a stalemate and extremely difficult. In the end, Ping Zhanyue managed to win by half a move. It was truly a close shave. Logically speaking, there should be a 5th match, and Jiang Luoluo should have been ready. However, for some reason Zenith Heaven sect had given up. However, no matter why the Daluo sect was willing to give up, the Phoenix Cry sect still managed to defeat the Daluo sect with a complete victory. As a result, the Phoenix Cry sect replaced the Daluo sect and was promoted to the 2nd place of the middle rank, which was the 2nd place. Now they only needed to wait for the original chief disciple of the middle class, to see if the General Commerce League could successfully challenge the upper class. If the challenge was successful, Phoenix Cry sect would then take the opportunity to challenge the fallen 1st place. If not, Phoenix Cry sect would cease all activities and settle for 2nd place. At this moment, the arena fell into silence. After a while, Pu Deshuang's voice came from above. The next match is a battle between the lower-class chief disciple and the middle-class last place. It is the first promotion battle in nearly 1,000 years. Now, 7 Star Sect's leader, please consider the battle strategy. Down below, 7 Star Sect's leader, Duan Tianchong, could not help but frown. He turned to look at the residents of 9 Supremes, his mind whirling for a moment, but he could not make a decision. Up above, Pu Deshuang's eyes flickered as he looked at the residents of 9 Supremes. After looking at the residents of 9 Supremes, he turned to look at Hua Yunfeng and could not make up his mind. Hua Yunfeng chuckled and said, "The residents of 9 Supremes has a great momentum this time. They are charging up like a hot knife through butter, and they are determined to win. At least, in my opinion, these few little fellows are amazing. The younger generation will surpass us in time." Pu Deshuang smiled faintly when he heard that. He glanced at Hua Yunfeng as if he was looking at an idiot and said faintly, "I appreciate Brother Hua's advice. Can I assume that you will definitely bet on the residents of 9 Supremes to win if you bet?" Chapter 11:25. Hua Yunfeng also chuckled and said, "Yes, I've witnessed the residents of 9 Supremes charge all the way here with my own eyes, so I know it well. If I bet on the residents of 9 Supremes, it will certainly be a profitable business." Pu Deshuang burst into laughter and cursed in disdain. "You old thing with sores on your head and pus on the soles of your feet, do you think I will fall for your trick? Since you've said so, I'll fulfill your wish and bet with you. You're betting on the residents of 9 Supremes, aren't you?" "I bet on the 7 Stars sect." Hua Yunfeng jumped to his feet, his face flushed. "What do you mean? Just now when I asked you to start the bet, you hesitated again and again. How is that interesting? Why don't I remember saying that I want to bet with you now?" Pu Deshuang looked at him with a hideous smile. "You old bastard, There is indeed something fishy going on. Just now, he said he wanted to bet, but now he doesn't want to bet. He's clearly trying to scam me. If you don't dare to take the bet, I won't force you. At most, I'll spread the news about you to the entire Sacred Heart Palace. I'd like to see how you'll behave in the future. Hua Yunfeng flew into a rage. Pu Deshuang, what's the meaning of this? There's only rape, and treachery. Pu Deshuang crossed his arms and said, I don't care about that. If you don't want to gamble, I'll expose your scandal. The choice is yours. It's up to you. Hua Yunfeng flew into a rage. Bah! Do you really think I don't dare to bet with you? I'm just afraid that you'll go bankrupt. I dare to bet, but do you really dare to accept? Pu Deshuang snorted. Why wouldn't I dare? No matter what you do, I'll take it all on. All right, I'll bet on the residence of 9 Supremes, but I'll decide the odds. Hua Yunfeng blushed and said, 1 to 6. If residence of 9 Supremes wins, you will have to pay 1 to 6. I'll bet 500 Supreme-grade spiritual jades. Do you dare to take it? Can you? Pu Deshuang was stunned for a moment and said in shock. 500 yuan? You old bastard, are you planning to use peak-grade spirit jades to scare me? Hua Yunfeng said, weren't you King arrogant? Aren't you trying to provoke me to bet on the residence of 9 Supremes? I'll bet 500 Supreme-grade spiritual jades on residence of 9 Supremes victory. If 7 Stars sect wins, these 500 pieces are yours. On the contrary, if the 7 Stars sect loses, you have to pay me 3,000 pieces of top-quality spirit jades. Pu Deshuang snorted and asked suspiciously again, why do I still feel that you are setting me up, you bastard? You! Hua Yunfeng snorted. Haha. Now that you don't dare to gamble, forget it. Remember not to speak ill of me outside, or else I will fight with you. There's a heavenly Tao oath here. It's not up to you to talk nonsense. Pu Deshuang laughed and pointed at Hua Yunfeng with his carrot-sized little finger. He was overjoyed. F***CK. It turns out that this is your plan. You want to scare me off with such a small number? Ha ha ha. You're dreaming, kid. If you scare me off with $500, you can brag about it for 8 years when you get back. Especially since you can avoid losing money here. All the good things have been taken by you. You crafty old B***starred. You're really insidious. Hua Yunfeng shook his head. Now it's me who dares to gamble, but you don't. I'm just respecting you. As long as you say you don't want to gamble, I won't argue with you and let you keep your money. In the future, don't say that I cheated you. I can't afford to lose face. Pu Deshuang said angrily. You want to take out 500 spirit jades for me to see? You can only gamble if you have the money. But you haven't taken out your stake, so how can I accept it? Am I trying to trick someone with nothing? Hua Yunfeng said angrily, why didn't you take out your stake first? Let me see who is trying to trick someone with nothing. The two stared at each other fiercely as if they were fighting cocks. After a long time, Pu Deshuang grinned hideously. This B***starred actually thinks I'm a poor man. Ha! Don't you know who I am? With that, he opened the spatial ring with a click and threw it to Hua Yunfeng. Open your F***king eyes and look carefully. There are 1,300 pieces of top-quality spirit jades in there. Are your eyes deceiving you? You're not the only one who's going to bet this round. I'm going to bet 1,000 as well. If 7 Stars sect wins, you have to give me another 1,000 in addition to the 500 you bet. On the other hand, if residence of 9 Supremes wins, not only will I pay you 3,000 Supreme-grade spirit jades, but the 1,000 I bet will also be yours. I'll accept this wager. Hua Yunfeng's face turned pale. Who F***king told you that you can bet 1,000 more? I'm rich. I can bet as much as I want. Pu Deshuang said angrily. What can you do to me? I want to bet 1,000, so what? My stake is only 1 to 1, which is not as impressive as your 1 to 6. You old B***starred who wants to cheat me. Are you going to accept it or not? Are you feeling guilty? Are you scared, dispirited, and hopeless? Hua Yunfeng gasped for breath and said hurriedly, who said I'm hopeless? I'm just afraid that you will go back on your word. You are famous for going back on your word. Pu Deshuang looked even more determined. You are afraid that I will go back on my word? Isn't it simple? We have all sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao, and those who go back on their word will naturally be punished by the heavenly Tao. Hua Yunfeng was stunned, his eyes fixed on Pu Deshuang. Pu Deshuang suddenly swore to the heavens. I, Pu Deshuang of Sacred Heart Palace, hereby swear an oath to the heavenly Tao that I will never go back on my word in this bet with Hua Yunfeng. I bet 1,000, and if I win, he will pay me 1,000. If he bet 500, the odds are 1 to 6, and if he wins, I will pay him an extra 3,000. I swear with my blood essence that the heavens bear witness. If I go back on my word, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Then, with a thunderous rumble, the heavenly Tao confirmed the oath, and there was no turning back. Pu Deshuang snorted and squinted at Hua Yunfeng. Satisfied? Hua Yunfeng looked as if he had lost his parents. He stamped his feet and cried out, F***CK. Are you trying to kill me? Pu Deshuang said proudly, the heavenly Tao has borne witness. Hua Yunfeng, you have no choice but to take the bet now. Even if I don't come to you, the heavenly Tao will. Fine, but you only have 1,300 pieces here. If I win, you will have to pay 4,000 pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade, Hua Yunfeng said. Are you afraid that I will go back on my word under the heavenly Tao's oath? If I lose, I will sell everything I have to give you when I go back. Even if he borrowed from thousands of households, he would still be able to gather 4,000 yuan for him. Humph. Ha ha ha. When he reached the end of his sentence, he suddenly laughed complacently. He was in a very good mood. He didn't expect that he would be able to cheat Hua Yunfeng with such a wrong move. This feeling was really good. Dejected, Hua Yunfeng handed over 500 pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade and said with an ashen face, This is all I have for the time being. Alas, I'm going to win, I will win, I must win. Pu Deshuang laughed heartily, took out 1,000 pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade, and put them into another spatial ring at the same time as Hua Yunfeng's 500 pieces. He was so happy that he wanted to sing. I know you are comforting yourself and hypnotizing yourself. I know, I really know. Hua Yunfeng sighed. Anyway, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. He tried his best to maintain the pretense of sadness in his tone, but he was so happy that he almost flew. I'm rich. I'm rich. Ha 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 ha. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be rich. Chapter 1126. Do you really think I'm consoling myself when I say I'm going to win? Self-hypnosis? You're blinding yourself. Hua Yunfeng wanted to jump up and sing a song. Little brother Yunyang, I'll definitely give you some money later. Fortunately, I borrowed the spiritual jades from those two fellows before I came up here. I'm going to make a fortune this time. Do you want to give them interest when I go back after I win? Humph. These two bastards won my spiritual jades without hesitation, so why should I give them interest? I'll treat them to a drink. No way, if I treat them to a drink, they'll know I've won. When I go back, not only will I not treat them to a drink, but I can't return the money immediately. At least, I'll have to drag it out and pretend to be poor for a while. I must let them treat me to a drink, then pretend to have everything they have and pay the money back after several difficulties. This way, I can cover up the fact that I've made a fortune. That's it. I'm really a genius. Down below, with a flash, 7-star sex leader, Duan Tianchong, flew up and cupped his fists. Lord Attendant, may I have a look at the information about the residence of 9 Supremes? This was a reasonable request. It could be said that it was within reason and within expectations. Pu Deshuang was in a good mood. He was usually unworldly and did not pay much attention to the lower-ranked sect leaders with middle-class celestial luck banners. But now, he found Duan Tianchong very pleasing to the eye. Here, have a look. It's a good look. Read it carefully, he said. As he spoke, he handed over a jade archive. Read it carefully. When you're done, win me some spiritual jades. Pu Deshuang was now looking at Duan Tianchong with a smile on his face. Duan Tianchong had delicate features. Duan Tianchong took the jade slip with the information about the residence of 9 Supremes. As he read it, his furrowed brows gradually relaxed. When he was done, he felt relaxed. The residence of 9 Supremes is nothing more than this. For a small sect that was established less than a year ago to be able to advance to this stage, admittedly, there was something strange about it, but most of it should be attributed to luck. At most, with just a year's accumulation of foundation, it wanted to knock down the 7-star sect that it had been immersed in for thousands of years. It was simply wishful thinking, like an ant trying to shake a tree. Thank you, Lord Attendant. Duan Tianchong looked much more relaxed after reading it, no longer showing any nervousness. We demand that the battle begin tomorrow. Let's take a break for the night and give both sides some buffer time. The residence of 9 Supremes has just arrived in the 3rd realm, so we should give them some time to familiarize themselves with the environment. Otherwise, wouldn't it show that we, the middle-class sects with celestial luck banners, are not magnanimous at all? Hua Yunfeng frowned and put on a fake smile. There's no need to go through so much trouble. There's only one level of difference between the 2nd realm and the 3rd realm, and there's no difference in other aspects. What kind of environment do you need to adapt to? It was only morning, and there was still more than half of the day left. Why did they have to start resting? As far as I know this time, your 7-star sect didn't challenge a higher-ranked sect, so you didn't even waste your energy, so what's there to rest for? Besides, your 7-star sect has a grandstand, but residence of 9 Supremes has no place to stay since it's the first time we've arrived. Are you going to let them stand there and wait for you for half a day and a night, and let all the sects with middle-class celestial luck banners laugh at us? Duan Tianchong smiled apologetically and said, Lord Deacon, setting the time of the duel is the right of the challenged sect. We have the right to decide on the time of the duel. His words were neither light nor heavy, but they were not polite at all. They went straight to the point and hit the nail on the head. Duan Tianchong was the leader of a middle-class celestial luck banner sect after all, so he was polite and considerate to Pu Deshuang, a deacon of his realm, but he was not so polite to Hua Yunfeng, a deacon of the 2nd realm and a deacon who spoke on behalf of residents of 9 Supremes. Hua Yunfeng flew into a rage at once, and he said in a deep voice, Sect leader Duan is really domineering. I wish sect leader Duan that you can be so domineering forever. Don't die prematurely, or I'll be very sad. Initially, Duan Tianchong did not feel any regret for saying those words. Although it was obvious that Deacon Hua Yunfeng was speaking on behalf of residents of 9 Supremes, he was still a deacon of Sacred Heart Palace. Duan Tianchong had offended him by blurting out those words. However, when he heard what Hua Yunfeng said next, he could not help but shudder inwardly. Hua Yunfeng was not a deacon of his realm here, so he could not do anything to Duan Tianchong. But when the Battle of the Celestial Luck Banner was over, if Hua Yunfeng made some mistakes and made things difficult for Duan Tianchong, it would be really difficult for Duan Tianchong to deal with. No matter how powerful a middle-class Celestial Luck Banner sect was, it was still not strong enough to deal with Sacred Heart Palace. At that moment, Pu Deshuang said in a gloomy voice, Hua Yunfeng, this is the battlefield of the middle-class Celestial Luck Banner. You're only here to enter the sect after the handover, and you've done your duty. Don't vent your personal emotions on sect leader Duan. Another deacon said with a hint of oppression in his voice, Deacon Hua, as deacons of Sacred Heart Palace, we are first and foremost deacons of Sacred Heart Palace. We must be upright, and we can't act recklessly for personal reasons. We can't affect the mood of the participating sects, and it's a taboo to interfere with the strategies and tactics of the fighting sections. Hua Yunfeng spun abruptly and said angrily, Bah! What I said was wrong. What I said was not true. What I said was biased towards either side. What the F***ck do you mean by raising the issue like this? My bet with that old man has nothing to do with you too. Who are you to interrupt? What? Do you want to bet with me as well? I can't believe there's such bullying in this world. You say it's to familiarize yourself with the environment, but you're actually making people wait for a day and a half in the cold night, treated as an ornament by many sects. Is there any fairness in the battle for the Celestial Luck Banner? He pointed his finger at them one by one and said fiercely, We're all at the same level. Who are you trying to scare? Do you think I'm afraid of the three of you? Why are you squeaking when you're not participating in the bet? Why are you spouting nonsense? If you really want to see me in a bad mood, why don't you show me some spirit jades? I'll take it no matter how much it is. Today, I'm going to vent my anger. What are you going to do about it? The other two deacons were so angry that their mouths and eyes twitched. They were speechless for a long time. Hua Yunfeng, why are you biting people like a mad dog? What did we do to you? We're just maintaining our current status and saying a few words of support, and we're not involved in paying respect to anyone. Why are you attacking us like a cannon? The other deacon, who had been silent the whole time, was so angry that his face turned blue. Hua Yunfeng, if you want to be a mad dog, don't bite me. What does this have to do with me? Pu Deshuang was also angry. Hua Yunfeng, watch your mouth. You're shameless, but we are. The Sacred Heart Palace is shameless. Hua Yunfeng's face turned red. What? What did you say? Why didn't I watch my mouth? Why didn't I care about my face? Do you want me to kneel down and lick your boots? If you didn't bet on the 7-star sect's victory, would you be so kind to them? Now, you even have the nerve to say that I'm wrong here and there? Pu Deshuang, you tricked me like this, yet you want me to swallow my anger? You're blinded by your imagination. Chapter 11:27. Pu Deshuang trembled with anger. Hua Yunfeng, you're lying. You bastard. How dare you? Hua Yunfeng stood up angrily. Pu Deshuang, are you my boss? How dare you put on airs in front of me? Do you have that? You have brothers, but I don't. What do I lack in you? I don't owe you anything, so why are you shouting? Who's humiliating the Sacred Heart Palace now? And you too, what does it have to do with me and Pu Deshuang? What's the relationship between you two? What do you want? Do you want to bully me with numbers? Hua Yunfeng cursed Pu Deshuang and the other two, making them so angry that they felt as if their internal organs were on fire. The other two stood up. You're not qualified to speak if you don't bet, right? Then I'll bet with you. I'll bet 500 on the 7-star sect. The odds are the same. Hua Yunfeng, do you dare to take it? Me too. I'll bet 500 too. The 7-star sect wins. Hua Yunfeng, do you dare to take it? Can you? Hua Yunfeng trembled all over and said fiercely, You're all determined to defeat me today. What are you guys trying to do? The three sneered and said nothing. Hua Yunfeng said angrily, You didn't swear to the heavenly Tao, so why should I take it? So what if I don't? The other two were so angry that they immediately swore. I swear to the heavenly Tao that I'll bet with Hua Yunfeng. May the heavens be my witness. Two thunderous booms rang out. The oath was made. The oath has been made. Hua Yunfeng, just wait to lose your fortune. Then we'll see how you die. Prepare to sell your butt to fill the hole. Hua Yunfeng was stunned for a while. Fine. Isn't that enough? I'll take it. I'll take 500 pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade from each of you. Even if I have to go bankrupt and sell my ass, I'll let you three old things see that I, Hua Yunfeng, am a man of indomitable spirit. Pu Deshuang laughed strangely. You're about to sell your ass, yet you still call yourself a man. Your definition of a man is really different. Hua Yunfeng sneered and said, Whether I'm a man or not will be judged by the public later. But you'd better think it through. If you want to win 500 top-grade spiritual jades from me each, you have to risk 3,000 top-grade spiritual jades. In other words, if you lose, you have to pay me 3,000 top-grade spiritual jades. The faces of the other two were as cold as ice. You don't have to worry about how much we win or lose. All you need to know is that if we lose, we won't forget your spirit jades. Other than that, don't yell like a mad dog here. Hua Yunfeng flicked his sleeves and rose to his feet. Good. Just you wait. Just you wait. Before he could finish his words, he stormed off angrily. Pu Deshuang's eyes were full of ridicule as he looked at Hua Yunfeng's figure. Brother Hua, even if you go and give residents of 9 Supreme some advice on how to deal with it now, can your real strength improve anything? When Hua Yunfeng heard this, he did not leave. He stood still, turned around, and walked back. Pu Deshuang, you're really something. How can you have all kinds of dirty thoughts? Since you've said so, I won't leave. I can't give you any excuse. I'll stay here and watch the duel between the two sects come to an end. Pu Deshuang, I didn't know that you were such a vile person before. Today, I've really broadened my horizons. Duan Tianchong stood aside in a daze for a long time, unable to figure out why these people were fighting. It was not until he had walked for a long time that he heard Pu Deshuang announce, "Seven Stars Sect proposes a truce for today and another fight tomorrow." On Residents of Nine Supreme's side, Yun Yang's face was as calm as ever. He just turned to look at Seven Star Sect and said in a loud voice, "We want a copy of Seven Star Sect's information. I wonder if that's possible?" On the stage, Pu Deshuang looked at Hui Yunfeng, who had a gloomy face, and said, "Sure, come and get it." Shi Wuchen leaped out. At this moment, all the sects in the Third Realm were looking at Residents of Nine Supremes with complicated gazes. Phoenix Cry Sect. Jiang Luoluo snorted angrily. This Seven-Star Sect is really despicable and shameless. How could they come up with such a dirty idea and make Da Jiang and others wait for half a day and a night at the entrance? What's the point of doing this? How can they call themselves a middle-class sect with celestial luck banner with such behavior? Gan Tianyan smiled faintly and said leisurely, "Of course it's interesting. When two armies fight, the most important thing is to attack the heart. Residents of Nine Supremes has come with a strong momentum. If the fight starts immediately, the momentum of consecutive victories alone will already increase the fighting strength of our side by 5%. Not to mention that Seven Star Sect knows nothing about Residents of Nine Supremes. With this buffer of half a day and a night, Seven Star Sect will not only have ample time to come up with a strategy, but also be able to cool down Residents of Nine Supremes' momentum. This is the so-called subduing the enemy without fighting. What's more, if there are weak-willed people in the Residents of Nine Supremes, especially those who are young, many of them will feel depressed and restrained. From then on, they will have a negative feeling that the gap between them and those with mid-class celestial luck banners is so huge. If this mentality is not eliminated in time, it will inevitably affect their performance on the spot, and their real strength will decline during the battle. How is that different from hastening their defeat? This is a psychological battle. Even if it were us, we would probably use it too. This is the right of the sect to be challenged, so why not use it when there is such a convenience? How can it not be used to restrain the unknown enemy's strength to the greatest extent? Jiang Luoluo snorted and said, "What strategy, tactics, authority and power? In the end, it's just despicable. If you really have the ability, just fight with real swords and spears. Playing these dirty tricks will only make people look down on you." Gan Tianyan smiled. In order to win, martial artists are willing to do anything. Winning is everything. There was a hint of meaning in his voice. Jiang Luoluo could not sit still anymore. "I'm going to find Da Jiang." Before her voice had died away, she had already left in a hurry. Gan Tianyan smiled, her face full of kindness. Ping Zhenyue smiled and said, "Junior sister, you really put a lot of thought into this." Gan Tianyan smiled and said, "It's good that Luoluo reminded him. If Residents of Nine Supremes can successfully ascend, it's also a good thing for us. Senior sister, can't you see that Luoluo has already made up her mind? How many times have we separated them all these years? How many times have we attacked them, but it's still useless. Now that Luo Dajiang has this opportunity, he can be considered a child with some luck. Why should we be vile and stop him? If some tragedy happens, it's not something we want to see." Ping Zhenyue's eyes flickered, as if she had thought of something. She sighed and said, "We'll do as you say, junior sister." Yun Yang only said a few words in response to the suggestion of delaying the competition by one day. By doing this, the Seven Star Sect deliberately let us wait under the watchful eyes of the public. They have two intentions. First, they're afraid of us. Second, they're using the opportunity to humiliate us to wear down our willpower and reduce our strength. What should we do in the face of unknown fear and realistic humiliation? Chapter 11:28. Hearing Yun Yang's words, the disciples, who were still a little anxious, felt their blood boiling again. Their low morale soared, even stronger than when they first arrived. Yun Yang said slowly, "We'll wait here. We won't set up tents, we'll stay here and see what these people are going to do. What can they do? We'll bathe in the cold wind, bathe in everyone's gaze, endure the attack of the night fog, accept their humiliation, and return it to them with our fury in the most extreme way tomorrow. Return it to them with our fury in the most extreme way. I'm invincible, Only I'm invincible. Zhang Luoluo had come. Seeing that the morale here was not only unaffected but even more intense, he heaved a sigh of relief amidst his surprise. He found Yunyang and stammered, "My master and senior uncle sect leader said that they're going to visit the residence of 9 Supremes in a few days." Yunyang was taken aback and said, "This is good news. I'll ask them to prepare, especially Da Jiang. Mother-in-law is coming." Zhang Luoluo coughed and said hesitantly, "Leader Supreme, I'm not joking with you. My master and senior uncles are not very satisfied with the disciples that the Phoenix Cry sect has recruited these years, and the residence of 9 Supremes has so many good seedlings." Yunyang was enlightened and said with a smile, I understand. We can't hog all of them. If your sect likes them, it's not a big deal for us to distribute some of them." Zhang Luoluo stomped her feet. "Say, I mean, we can't just let them take advantage of us. With the residence of 9 Supreme's ability and foundation, why should we give them away?" All the brothers were speechless for a while. "What the F***CK? You're not here to be a lobbyist for your family, but you're colluding with outsiders to harm your family?" The so-called extroverted girl was nothing more than this, was it not? Under the strange gazes of the brothers, Zhang Luoluo was a little embarrassed and murmured, "Actually, I don't mean anything else. I'm just thinking. The residence of 9 Supremes is where Da Jiang's foundation lies. It's because Da Jiang isn't strong that, if my sect becomes stronger, much stronger than all of you, I'm worried that there will be more trouble." Everyone understood at once. So this silly girl was still worried about this. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but at the same time, he was very touched. This girl was foolish enough, and even more foolish enough. Luo Da Jiang could not help but pull Zhang Luoluo into his arms and whispered, "Don't worry, Luoluo. No one can separate us from now on." Zhang Luoluo nodded with tears in her eyes. She could not help but sob. "I know, but I'm still worried. If you fall again. Now I know that there is nothing in this world that cannot be settled by profit. Even the love between a man and a woman, no matter how much they love each other, as long as it is not in line with the interests of the people of the world, it is not difficult to separate them." Luo Da Jiang hugged her tightly, lest he slip up and lose his love forever. Yunyang and the others looked on, touched. Wuchen said softly, "Luo Da Jiang, when we get back, hurry up and get married to Luo. Not only do you have to give her the title of sister-in-law, but you also have to give her everything she deserves. If you delay any longer, I'm afraid the few of us will beat you up." Luo Da Jiang nodded heavily. The next morning, when everyone arrived at their own sect's viewing platform and looked at the entrance, they were all shocked the moment they saw the entrance. All the people of the residence of 9 Supremes were sitting there, meditating with their legs crossed, each of them covered in a layer of dew and frost. They did not pitch their tents. They could have pitched their tents, but they did not. They simply exposed themselves to the wind and dew of the night. A few disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes had already stood up, staring at the 7-star sect's grandstand with eyes full of rage and hatred. It was a fierce look that said they would fight to the death. Everyone, including the Phoenix Cry sect and the Daluo sect, felt a chill in their hearts. Such morale. When the disciples of the 7-star sect mocked, belittled, and took the opportunity to humiliate their opponents were sitting here, enduring the humiliation. Let this humiliation make the fire in his heart burn more and more fiercely. It was nothing for a skilled cultivator not to sleep for a night, and it would not affect their combat strength. However, the humiliation and experience of this night were enough to be imprinted in the hearts of the 10 disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes for the rest of their lives. Everyone was well aware of what kind of effect this kind of spiritual experience would have on a disciple. It was an experience that could benefit them for the rest of their lives. When 7-star sect's Duan Tianchong saw the scene, he felt an inexplicable regret. Sect leader Yun, let's follow the usual rules for the first match. Since you have come to challenge us, let's have the battle of the best first. It is the most straightforward way. Duan Tianchong said lightly from the grandstand, looking at Yun Yang, who had come up. Yun Yang's expression did not change. It is sect leader Duan's business to make the rules. The residents of 9 Supremes will accept it. How about we have the battle of the backbone for the second match? No problem. How about we decide the third match with the battle of formations? Duan Tianchong said indifferently. His tone sounded like he was asking for advice, but his expression did not look like he could change his mind. No problem. Duan Tianchong smiled faintly. Lord Deacon, we have racked our brains, but we have only arranged these 3 matches. Pu Deshuang asked. Duan Tianchong smiled confidently. Our sect thinks that these 3 matches are enough to decide the winner and the loser. We don't want to be ruthless, so we don't need to win all 5 matches. What he meant was that these 3 matches were enough to drive the residents of 9 Supremes back. Pu Deshuang laughed. Sect leader Duan is so bold. All right, it's settled then. Next to him, Hua Yunfeng rolled his eyes. Ambitious? Stupid is the real deal. Not to mention anything else, you will definitely lose the Battle of Formations. After you lose the Battle of Formations, you will definitely have to arrange a Battle of Disciples to save face, but the residents of 9 Supremes will still win with the help of mystical beasts. Residents of 9 Supremes will win 2 matches. But you? Humph. I'm going to be rich anyway. Yun Yang smiled faintly and said, Sect leader Duan is right. We don't need to win all 5 matches this time either. He rolled his eyes, and 2 cold gleams shot out of his eyes. As long as we can win 3 matches, we'll be content. Duan Tianchong felt a chill in his heart when he was stared at, and then he flew into a rage. Sect leader Yun, we've made up our mind. Please go back and arrange the formation as soon as possible. The earlier we start, the earlier we can finish it. Perhaps, sect leader Yun will have to go back and accept the admiration of all the sects with lower-class celestial luck banners as the chief lower-class disciple. Chapter 1129. Yun Yang said with a grin, Of course we should. Before I left, the Golden Cauldron sect repeatedly asked me to end the promotion battle as soon as possible. They are waiting for sect leader Duan to come over. They are still thinking about the low-rank chief disciple that they lost. They hope that they can use your sect to make a comeback. Yun Yang's words were undoubtedly more ruthless. Not only did he say that they would definitely win this battle, but he also implied that the 7-star sect would not be able to claim the position of the chief disciple even if they were to fall to the lower class. Instead, they would fall below the Golden Cauldron sect. If that were to be the case, the 7-star sect would be so ashamed that they would wish they were dead. Duan Tianchong snorted, then turned around and left. 7-star sect versus residents of 9 Supremes, the first match, the Battle of the Pinnacle. Pu Deshuang guffawed and announced the content of the first match. At this moment, he was filled with satisfaction. Not only would he be in a high position, but he would also be able to win a large number of Supreme-grade Spirit Jades. Ha ha ha. Today is my lucky day. In the next moment, a handsome middle-aged man appeared out of thin air. His expression was indifferent and his manner was elegant. I'm Wu Yu from 7-star sect. I wonder who from the residents of 9 Supremes would like to give me some advice? All the sects in the spectator stands felt their eyes light up. Shadowless Saber. Wu Yu. There is no need to worry about me. A sigh could be heard in the sky. The residents of 9 Supremes is not as rich as the 7-star sect. As the sect leader, I can't be lazy like sect leader Duan. I'm the leader of the sect, and I'm also the one who takes part in the battle of the strongest fighting force in the sect. I'm really envious of your sect master Duan. It was Yun Yang's voice. As the voice rang out, a figure in a fluttering purple robe appeared in the sky. It crossed 2,000 feet and landed in front of Wu Yu. Yun Yang's arrival in the arena showcased his outstanding physique. Coupled with his handsome face, he portrayed the unparalleled aura of a young master to the extreme, causing many of the female disciples on the spectator stand to look at him with curious gazes. Suddenly a woman's voice rang out. So handsome. Sect leader Yun, do you have a wife now? If you don't have a wife, do you mind looking for one? If you already have a wife, would you mind having another one? As soon as this voice came out, everyone roared with laughter, and it lasted for a long time. On the other hand, the faces of those from the Zenith Heavens sect darkened. The one who had spoken was none other than a female disciple of the Absolute sect. Looking from afar, this woman was dressed in a red dress, and her figure was quite graceful. Because of the distance, he could not see her appearance clearly. However, her question was extremely bold and explicit. The Daluo sect leader's face turned pale as he scolded in a low voice. Junior sister Yu, don't spout nonsense. It turned out that this woman was a middle-level leader of the Daluo sect, someone of considerable status. The woman said carelessly, "Shut up. I asked you to marry me back then, but you refused. Now you want to stop me from marrying someone else?" The head of the Daluo sect, He Song, was speechless. He lowered his head and sat in his seat, speechless. Not only did he feel humiliated to death, but he also felt extremely ashamed. He coughed dryly and said, "Senior, you must be joking. This junior is still working hard to survive. I really have no intention of. As long as you marry me, I'll be your wife, a member of the Residence of 9 Supremes. I can go down there and help you cripple this Wu Yu. With my help, defeating the 7 Stars sect will be a piece of cake." Her words were even more explicit than before, but no one present took it as a joke anymore. Was this a joke? No, this was reality. As long as Yun Yang was willing to put aside his pride and agree to the marriage, based on this junior sister Yu's status in the Daluo sect and her ability, it would be a piece of cake to win this pinnacle match. It was not a joke at all. Winning a match out of nowhere would have a huge impact, whether it was for the Residence of 9 Supremes or the 7-Star sect. Many of them mumbled in their hearts, "If I were Yun Yang, maybe I'd agree to it." It said that other than being hot-tempered and aggressive, this fairy Yu is also very beautiful. And her cultivation base is very high. Plus, she has a strong backer and ally like the Daluo sect. What a bargain this is. Hearing this, not only did Yun Yang stagger, even Wu Yu, who was standing opposite him, staggered. He looked up speechlessly and said, "Big sister Yu, why don't I marry you?" The woman scolded. "Pfft. You're dreaming, pretty boy. Look at you, a face that your grandmother doesn't care about and your uncle doesn't love. As if your mother gave birth to you in heaven but you fell face first to the ground. How dare you dream about me? I'm not a person who looks at faces." Wu Yu's pretty face immediately darkened to the point of being unsightly. "I'm also a handsome man. Look at my face. Is it really so unbearable? Don't look at my face? What are you looking at if not at my face? Ignore her. Let's fight." Wu Yu was really worried now. If Yun Yang really agreed to it and this woman really went down the stage, he would really be no match for her. For a moment, looking at Yun Yang's face, he could not help but feel a little angry. Is a pretty boy so popular? Today, I'll scratch this pretty boy face of yours. With a swoosh, he unsheathed his saber and said, "Sect leader Yun, the plan has been set. Please make your move." Yun Yang took a deep breath and said, "Please." Before his words echoed in the air, he suddenly flashed and crossed 70 feet in a single step. The divine edge slashed downwards. It was like a mountain pressing down from above, and it chopped down with copious force. Wu Yu obviously did not expect the other party to strike so ruthlessly without any warning. At least, in his plan, both parties should at least greet each other politely and take a step back before the fight began. However, the other party's unreasonable start couldn't be said to have broken the rules. This was because the battle had already begun the moment Pu Deshuang announced the start of the battle. Any subsequent attacks were logical and normal actions. It could only be said that the other party had seized the initiative. That was understandable. Wu Yu instinctively took a step back, the saber in his hand flying up. With a clang, the two sabers collided with each other in a domineering manner. Yun Yang did not hold back at all in this strike. He had used up all the mystical qi in his body, in addition to Emmy's full support. Although the strike did not have any style to speak of, it was already a counterattack that had no style to speak of. The strike that was originally meant to test the opponent's strength was now overflowing with an untraceable sense of transcendence. Clang! When the two sabers collided, both of their bodies shook violently. Wu Yu could not help but lean back, using the momentum to retreat 3 steps. Yun Yang, on the other hand, bounced up abruptly and flew hundreds of feet into the air. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of murky qi that was tinged with the color of blood. Yun Yang's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. From the clash of the sabers, he had confirmed the other party's true cultivation base. The pinnacle of a 3rd-level Saint King. An absolutely formidable foe. Genius in a second. Remember this site's address. Mobile version. Chapter 1130. Wu Yu's cultivation base was actually on par with the Golden Cauldron sect's great elder, Chu Xiaofeng. Yun Yang did not look like he was at a disadvantage in this confrontation, but he knew himself best. If it was not for his sneak attack and Emmy's support, he would never be this fellow's opponent in a pure clash of mystical qi. Yun Yang quickly came up with a countermeasure as he spun in the air. His saber light glowed brighter as it came crashing down. It was Saber Truth, Destiny's first form, merciless blade. As the saber slashed down, heaven and earth seemed to be split apart. Above the saber was heaven and below it was earth. The saber had split heaven and earth. Compared to Yun Yang, who felt that his opponent's cultivation base was more profound than his, Wu Yu's heart was bleeding as he retreated. His mind and the spiritual saber that had accompanied him for half his life were already in sync. However, after the clash of the sabers, he could clearly feel that his treasured saber that had gone through countless battles had an additional chip on it. The treasured saber in his hand even exuded a very human-like fear of the opponent's mystical weapon. Seeing Yun Yang descend from the sky and execute a marvelous technique, he dared not be the least bit negligent. His other body shook and split into 3 silhouettes that hovered close to the ground. The saber light intensified and gathered into an ever-growing pagoda that rose like a whirlwind. It was obvious that he had made up his mind not to fight recklessly but to use pure mystical qi as his main force in this battle. If he were to continue fighting recklessly, his saber would probably be crippled. Although the fifth heaven possessed the miraculous ability to recover human or mystical beasts' lives, it could not do anything to a damaged mystical weapon. If a weapon was destroyed, it was truly destroyed. It could only be repaired or recast afterward. The reason why Wu Yu had chosen such a battle method that consumed a lot of mystical qi was because he could sense that his opponent's mystical qi cultivation base was not as good as his. Furthermore, it was at least a level lower. Of course, he had to make use of his advantage in mystical qi to its fullest extent, but he could not use it in the extreme clash of their weapons. It went without saying what he should do. Choose one option. In this world, Yun Yang's saber light came crashing down. Ding ding ding. The 2 swords clashed against each other in an almost continuous manner. Both of them moved away as soon as they touched each other. Although the collisions were frequent, Wu Yu's sword did not suffer any damage. Seeing that his strategy was working, Wu Yu, who was rejoicing that he did not have to worry too much about his treasured saber being damaged and affecting the battle, suddenly sensed that his opponent's saber was moving. After the series of light collisions, a dense net of blades had formed, enveloping and compressing the space he was in, causing the space he could move in and even the air around him to become viscous. What kind of saber technique was this? How could it cause such a change? Wu Yu was inexplicably shocked by the sudden change in the situation before him. Although the current situation was not to the point where he could not deal with it, in fact, it was still relatively minor. However, this was only the first strike of his opponent. The chances of him pinning his hopes on this one strike and not following it up were too slim. He had to adapt to the situation as quickly as possible. That was the only way to ensure his safety. However, with a long howl from Wu Yu, the treasured saber that was initially wrapped tightly in thick mystical qi suddenly shone brightly. It shone brilliantly in a dazzling manner, instantly cutting all of Yun Yang's weaved saber wind into halves. It had to be said that Wu Yu's technique was cleanly broken. It could be said that it was the simplest and most straightforward way that Wu Yu had broken Destiny's first form, merciless blade, since his debut. However, it was as Wu Yu had expected. Yun Yang did not only have a single trick up his sleeve, but the second strike that followed was right on time. Merciless Dao. Then, the extremely uncomfortable and sticky feeling that had just disappeared returned once more. Wu Yu snorted inwardly. Gathering his mystical qi again, he channeled all of the 7-star sect's mystical skills. Whether it was his movement or saber technique, he had unleashed them to their limits. He even reserved his left hand, secretly accumulating strength and hanging it by his side in case of emergencies. Although the saber light had fallen, Yun Yang's body was still hovering in midair. His purple robes fluttered in the wind, almost dyeing the entire sky purple. After battling Chu Xiaofeng, Yun Yang had once again used the first form of Destiny Blade's first form. His understanding of the Destiny Blade was completely different from before. It was a feeling of being completely at his fingertips, as if he was controlling his own arm. Although Wu Yu's cultivation base was extremely high and his saber technique was exquisite, he was still full of openings when faced with the onslaught of Destiny Blade. Yun Yang, who was in midair, had the entire sky as a place for him to divert the force, causing his opponent's profound cultivation base to be of little use. Basically, each tremor would make Yunyang feel rather uncomfortable, but it was still within the range of Yunyang's endurance. Because Wu Yu cherished his saber, he had never fought with his life on the line. In addition, he was able to divert the force in midair, so the impact of the current aftershock was not too difficult to bear. Wu Yu's response was effective once again. Merciless Dao was also parried by him, unharmed. He did not even have to use his spare left hand. His mystical qi, which was much more profound than Yunyang's, was still exerting great power. 2 moves had gone by without any effect, but Yunyang was not discouraged. He focused his strength on the saber in his hand again, and immediately, he felt the divine edge in his hand buzz, faintly exuding a sense of comfort. It was also an excitement that urged Yunyang to fight as soon as possible. The divine edge longed for battle, longing even more to defeat the opponent's saber. Only by destroying the opponent could the true nature of the saber be seen. Yunyang completely sensed the excitement and put it into action, igniting the flames of battle once more. His lean body spun in the air again. The saberlinger and life and death in a thought were executed simultaneously. The first 2 moves were 70% of his strength, but these 2 moves had increased to 90%. The 2 sabers overlapped and flowed out, but the combined force was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. The saber wind howled, covering the sky and earth. Wu Yu had countered 2 of Yunyang's marvelous saber techniques without being tested. Although he was not overly complacent, he still had a vague feeling that his opponent was only a so-so and his mystical qi cultivation base was the key to this battle. Now that he saw the 2 attacks coming at him together, he immediately had a bad feeling. Wu Yu instinctively sensed that under the edge of his opponent's blade, it was as if a world of mortals had suddenly appeared in the arena. An indescribable yearning suddenly arose in his heart, and his mind was almost stolen. Wu Yu's heart skipped a beat. He countered the attacks as he took 8 steps back, trying his best to channel the 7-star sex-frozen heart charm to calm his mind and expel any stray thoughts. Only then did he manage to suppress the feeling. However, the other saber, the one that could decide life and death, had already arrived at the side of his neck after a moment of hesitation. Chapter 1131. This slash did not leave any trace or trajectory. It was as if it had appeared out of nowhere and had crossed the air to arrive. Wu Yu's expression changed. His left hand that had been hanging in front of him moved abruptly, striking out diagonally. The palm strike was not meant to defeat the enemy but to generate a strong counterforce. He retreated 180 feet like an arrow, narrowly avoiding the fatal strike. He was still drenched in cold sweat from the shock. His opponent's saber skill was so marvelous that it had far exceeded the limits of common sense. Its subtlety was almost unimaginable. That moment just now was the moment when he had just used up all his strength and had yet to generate new strength. If he had not been on guard, he might not have been able to discover his opponent's flaw in that instant. His opponent would have taken advantage of that gap and succeeded. There was actually such a saber skill in this world. The whistling in the air had yet to stop, but this time, the saber's wind came from the back of his head. River of blood, reincarnation under the saber. Yunyang's saber skill grew more and more exquisite. Furthermore, a shapeless web of sabers formed in the air once more. The air grew thicker and thicker than before. 100% of his strength. Wu Yu was slightly frightened. He knew that he could not drag on any longer. God knew how many more exquisite skills his opponent had yet to unleash. If he allowed his opponent to do as he pleased, he could not guarantee that he would not fail miserably. With a sudden roar, the saber in his hand glowed with 7 spots of starlight that shot out. It was like the Big Dipper, shining eternally in the northern sky, appearing at this moment and descending upon the mortal realm. At the same time, his left palm struck again. As it extended and retracted, 9 palm strikes were launched. The extremely ferocious profound qi blasted out like raging waves. From Wu Yu's point of view, borrowing strength from the void was not like stepping on the ground. There was bound to be a limit. He did not believe that Yunyang's mystical qi would be able to support him to fight in the air under his relentless attacks. After the 9 palm strikes from his left hand, dozens of palm strikes followed. Coupled with the powerful saber skills, the attacks were launched with the force of splitting mountains and rocks. Wu Yu's judgment was not wrong. Yun-yang was indeed a little out of his reach. Saber Truth. Destiny Blade was almost invincible against opponents of the same level. Even if the difference was between beginner and pinnacle of the same level, it could still force the opponent into a fluster in a very short amount of time, thereby gaining the upper hand and even winning. However, when facing an opponent who was a level higher than him, Wu Yu was almost 2 whole levels higher than him. His superb and exquisite moves, when faced with the opponent's tyrannical strength, were no longer as easy to deal with as before. Yun-yang had officially advanced to beginner 2nd level while Wu Yu was at the pinnacle of 3rd level. The gap between the Saint Kings was not the same as the gap between the 2nd and 3rd grade of the Venerable Realm. In fact, it was almost as big as the gap between heaven and earth. In fact, Wu Yu was already very surprised that Yun-yang could last until now, not to mention that he had almost beheaded Wu Yu with a single slash just now. Now, however, Wu Yu was going all out, unleashing his thick cultivation base in the most extreme, almost unreasonable way. He was truly suppressing his opponent with sheer force, vividly demonstrating the saying that one man could defeat 10 men with sheer force. In order to deal with Wu Yu's fierce counterattack, Yun-yang's mystical chi foundation was drained almost instantly. Fortunately, he managed to bounce himself up into the air to avoid the other party's attack. This time, he actually flew about 400 to 500 feet high. Although he did not succeed in one go, Wu Yu's expression showed that he had victory in his grasp. He could clearly feel that his opponent was exhausted. He could clearly feel the weakness of his opponent as the last wisp of mystical chi was drawn out. The confinement of hundreds of consecutive palm strikes was enough to squeeze out the last bit of his opponent's energy. Although he had expended a lot of energy in that round of fierce attacks, paying at least 10 times more than his opponent, the huge difference in their mystical chi reserves and foundation was evident now. He could afford to expend his energy like this, but his opponent was still out of strength despite having expended less. Even if he was not completely exhausted, he would be exhausted. Only such a method could counter the opponent's marvelous saber technique. No matter how marvelous his technique was, Yun-yang would deal with it. The focus of a cultivator's battle was still their mystical chi cultivation base. Now, as long as Yun-yang landed, the battle would come to an end. In the blink of an eye, Yun-yang's momentum that had been propelled into the sky due to the massive impact had come to an abrupt halt. He fell like a falling meteor. Wu Yu laughed when he saw the situation. His saber light flashed again as he charged forward. He did not want to give Yun-yang any more chances. Let this last collision end this pinnacle battle. However, a change that exceeded Wu Yu's expectations came at the very next moment. The moment the two sabers came into contact, Yun-yang's saber emitted an unprecedented force along with a strange swirling force. When Wu Yu's saber met the attack, a soft clang could be heard as his entire body was almost pulled to the side by the force. Wu Yu urged his mystical chi to stabilize himself, but he was shocked to realize that it was still the same viscous force that had appeared for the 3rd time and was even stronger than before. The sudden change made Wu Yu's heart tremble. What was going on? Wasn't he exhausted just now? Where did this strange force come from? As an accomplished cultivator, Wu Yu had been immersed in mystical chi cultivation his entire life. Naturally, he could tell that the force that Yun-yang was wielding was not mystical chi at all. If it was not mystical chi, then what was it? Mystical chi, as the hard currency of the Bound of Universe's cultivators, had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of all cultivators. Now that there was suddenly something that surpassed or even subverted their understanding, how could they not be shocked? Yun-yang had used the endless divine art in this strike. Not only had he successfully diverted Wu Yu's saber away, he had also shaken Wu Yu's mind, causing the tables to turn. At this delicate moment, the wind blew and the mountain of white bones converged. The two ferocious strikes of saber truth. Destiny Blade descended in a domineering manner. In Wu Yu's senses, a mountain suddenly appeared in front of him. It was a majestic mountain made entirely of white bones and skeletons. The eye sockets of each skeleton that constructed the mountain were glimmering with a faint light. Each light was a ray of saber light. Boom! Before the ferocious strike, Wu Yu steadied his mind and mustered all his mystical chi and all his strength to parry the attack. Alas, he could not unleash his full strength due to the sudden turn of events and was flung away by the two saber strikes. His body was covered in 17 to 18 saber marks. However, his cultivation base was profound indeed, far above Yun-yang's. Although his clothes were shredded and hung on his body in strips, they did not manage to cut through his flesh. It was a remarkable feat indeed. It was also at this moment that Wu Yu spat out a mouthful of blood. Genius in a second. Remember this site's address. Mobile version. Chapter 1132. Even with Wu Yu's cultivation, he had to forcefully reverse the profound qi and forcefully raise his strength in order to deal with the emergency. Although his physical body was not damaged, his internal organs were unavoidably injured, but this little bit of injury was not considered serious. At most, he would be able to suppress it with a few circulations of his qi. In spite of this, Wu Yu could not care less about the severity of his injuries. Instead, he was caught in an unprecedented state of stupor. What kind of power was this? It was a mystical power that he had never seen before in his life. Regarding this point, Wu Yu could confirm it himself. Since the start of the fight, it was the first time Wu Yu was flustered. In terms of strength, he had the absolute advantage. He did not lack combat experience either, at least not inferior to Yun Yang. Furthermore, from the beginning of the fight, he knew what level of mystical qi his opponent possessed, what tactics he used, how long he could push his opponent to the end of his rope, and what techniques he could use to push his opponent to the end of his rope. When he could force his opponent to burn his life force, when he could force his opponent to self-destruct, Wu Yu had a clear understanding of all these, a precise judgment. This was the experience and intuition he had accumulated from thousands of years of battles. Now, however, Wu Yu realized sadly that it was this experience and intuition that had harmed him and interfered with his judgment. His heart told him that Yun Yang was now at the end of his rope. Even if he were to burn his life force, he would not be able to summon too much power. Even if Yun Yang could self-destruct now, the threat he posed would not be much of a threat. It was far from enough to pull him along with him. However, the other party had suddenly transformed, recovering from an extremely bad state where he should have been at the end of his rope, to a state of vigor. He had even unleashed a power that was beyond his knowledge, a power that he had never come into contact with before. He was full of energy, full of vigor, charging back. Wu Yu was even a little lost, flustered, and at a loss for what to do. He could only react based on his instinct. Just as he was in a daze, Yun Yang took the opportunity to cast his signature move, displaying the two strongest moves of Destiny Blade so far. The gates of life and death opened. The 18 levels of hell. Without a doubt, these two techniques were the strongest and most unparalleled techniques of saber truth. Destiny Blade that Yun Yang had cultivated. With Yun Yang's current cultivation base, when he executed these two techniques at the same time, he would be in a state of complete exhaustion at the same time. Correspondingly, the power of these two moves could be imagined. However, with a whistling sound, the saber light that filled the air suddenly gathered and condensed into a beam. The blazing, glaring white light shot out and split into two. In front of Wu Yu, there seemed to be a door that should not exist in this world suddenly opened. The door of life and death. One step forward was like a mountain of blades, one step back was like a sea of fire. This sort of scene seemed to have materialized from nothingness, and it was completely real. The piercingly cold saber light tore through his body. Behind the door, there was still the 18 levels of hell. It was so familiar, just like his imagination and knowledge of the 18 levels. At that moment, his thoughts ran amok, and he could no longer control himself. His body's balance was completely skewed by Yun Yang. Wu Yu sighed in his heart and closed his eyes. How did he end up like this when he was in a good situation? Life and death, hell in front of him? In the next moment, 7 stars fall. Wu Yu knew that his mind was already bewitched by Yun Yang's technique, and that it was inevitable for him to be struck. He steeled his heart and executed the 7 stars gate's most extreme and desperate move. He did not hold back at all, intending to perish together with his opponent. However, he had already lost his balance and was unsure of where the attack would land. Furthermore, he could clearly feel that his body was being sliced into pieces by the sharp saber energy cast by his opponent. As long as he was not dead, as long as he could survive this move, as he attacked with all his might, he mustered his remaining strength to retreat quickly, intending to escape from danger. It was a pity that it was too late. The 18 levels of hell had already enveloped his entire body. He was now in another space. The so-called retreat was merely a figment of his imagination. It was completely ineffective. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. That was the sound of the saber's edge landing on his body. He was a third-level pinnacle Saint King. The sturdiness of his physical body was comparable to that of a divine weapon. Even with the sharpness of the divine edge, the first slash could only break through the surface layer of his mystical chi defense. At the very least, he would have to wait until the second slash landed on his body before it could truly cause any damage. Yun Yang had already calculated this. With a flick of his wrist, hundreds of slashes fell rapidly. With such a frequent attack, there had to be a few slashes that landed on the same spot. As the saber light fell, lines of blood shot out in a frenzy. From afar, the sky above the arena looked like a red ball of blood. It continued to roll and spread in the air. A furious roar followed by a deafening explosion. A mushroom cloud suddenly rose in the arena. Honestly speaking, Wu Yu did not want to self-destruct. As long as he could get through this, he was confident that he could exhaust Yun Yang to death. But the previous mistake had a huge impact on Wu Yu, and it was too fatal. The moment the balance was lost, Yun Yang had grasped the opportunity. It was only a momentary change that had turned the tables on him. Trapped in the atmosphere of the 18 abysses of hell, Wu Yu's state of mind was increasingly unbalanced, rendering him powerless to turn the tables. Unable to break free from the shackles, he could only choose to self-destruct amidst the saber light. If he did not self-destruct, he could only be sliced into dust by Yun Yang's slashes, unable to do anything else. He really did not have any other way. However, his self-destruction this time was too passive. To Yun Yang, it was not even as powerful as the self-destruction he had endured when he faced off against the Golden Cauldron sect's great elder, Chu Xiaofeng. After the explosion, everyone could see that as the mushroom cloud rose, there was a purple silhouette flying and rolling at the top of the mushroom cloud. It soared another 200 feet into the air before its purple robe was completely torn apart, fluttering in the air like butterflies. Yun Yang, on the other hand, was wearing a bluish-white inner robe and was still safe and sound. The bluish-white inner robe was only slightly damaged. At this moment, he even had the time to dodge in the air. Even though he spat out a mouthful of blood, everyone could see clearly that the residence of 9 Supreme Sect leader was not in any life-threatening danger. Compared to Wu Yu, who had self-destructed, he was in a much better state. Pu Deshuang's face had long darkened. In fact, it had darkened the moment Wu Yu self-destructed. Looking at the indescribably excited Hua Yunfeng, Pu Deshuang's lips moved a few times before he managed to hold back the urge to curse. Chapter 1133. After a few breaths, Yun Yang, who had been tossing and turning in the air, finally landed on the ground. He staggered a few steps before regaining his footing. He was the only one left in the field. Although it wasn't a complete victory, it was still a complete victory, a complete victory. No matter how lucky the victory was, it was a victory after all. No wonder someone from the Golden Cauldron sect dares to challenge the middle class. Just based on this pinnacle battle alone, if Chu Xiaofeng were to face Wu Yu, the chances of him winning are more than 90%. Yun Yang pondered in his heart. At this moment, the entire 7-star sect, including the sect leader, wished that their eyeballs could pop out from their eye sockets. Lost. How could they lose? The Great Elder clearly had the upper hand from the beginning, and he had been dominating the whole time. How could he lose? This was too inexplicable. The first pinnacle battle, the residence of 9 Supremes wins. Pu Deshuang's heart was throbbing and bleeding when he said this. Who would have thought that the residence of 9 Supremes was such a monster? How could they turn the tables and win when there was a gap of 2 levels? How could they explain this? This victory was basically equivalent to winning 2 battles. The pinnacle battle and the sect leader's battle. Duan Tianchong, the 7-star sect's leader, would definitely not dare to mention the sect leader's battle again. It would be asking for a beating. If the sect leader's battle really took place, winning or losing was secondary. Based on Yun Yang's impression of him, he would definitely play him to death in the battle without any mercy. Shadows flickered in the field. Wu Yu had come back to life, but he was still standing in the field, looking at Yun Yang opposite him with a complicated expression. I know I've lost. But I want to know, what kind of cultivation method are you using? How can you be so powerful? Wu Yu asked in a low voice. Upon hearing Wu Yu's question, all the people in the third realm immediately went into an uproar. You, Wu Yu, are the great elder of the 7-star sect, A person with peak combat strength. How could you ask such a layman's question? Personal cultivation was the cultivator's biggest secret. Once it was known, it was tantamount to revealing one's own strengths and weaknesses. If someone answered you, then they would be a fool. As expected, the cultivation method I cultivate is my personal secret. We are enemies. Why would Great Elder ask such a question? Yunyang looked confused. Do I have to answer you? Wu Yu's eyes grew heavy as he said, the power you displayed just now does not belong to the domain of profound energy. Yunyang asked blankly, not within the realm of mystical qi? This. Senior Wu, I'm confused by your question. You said that my cultivation doesn't belong to the domain of profound qi. Then what domain can it belong to? What are you trying to say? I don't understand what you're saying at all. Wu Yu said coldly, it's up to you if you don't want to say it. His eyes revealed a sharp glint and he said word by word, but I suspect that the arcane physique you just used is based on demonic qi. Yunyang sneered, demonic qi? Great Elder, you're really putting a big hat on me. May I ask if Great Elder knows the characteristics of demonic qi? Or do you have any evidence to prove that my cultivation method belongs to the domain of demonic cultivation? Or have you ever seen demonic qi? Wu Yu said darkly, I've indeed never seen demonic qi, and I don't have any evidence to prove it. But you obviously exhausted your qi, but you completely recovered in the blink of an eye. This is the truth that all the discerning people present have seen. How can there be a second possibility other than the fact that you cultivate a demonic qi cultivation method? Yunyang laughed. I was wondering what brilliant opinion Great Elder has, but it turns out that it's just your speculation. You think it's impossible, so you slander me by saying that I have demonic qi? The demon race? Based on what? Based on your mouth? It's a fact, so it's very possible. Wu Yu said coldly. On the high platform, Hua Yunfeng's sneer came from afar. Wu Yu, have you ever fought with the demon race? Do you know what demonic qi looks like? If you don't, then shut your stinking mouth. You're at the peak of the 3rd grade Saint King realm, yet you've never really fought with the demon clan before, and you still dare to spout nonsense and accuse others. You're really good at stirring up trouble and confusing others. Pu Dishuang's furious voice rang out. A loss is a loss. Why are you talking so much nonsense? What demonic qi cultivation method? Do you really know what demonic qi looks like? I think you're the demon, Wu Yu. Hurry up and scram back. The 2 Sacred Heart Palace's deacons must have fought with the demon race, so they naturally knew what demonic qi looked like. The cultivation method that Yunyang had operated during the battle was full of righteousness and grandeur. How could it possibly be demonic qi? So much so that when they saw Wu Yu still talking nonsense and making irresponsible remarks after losing, they were naturally furious. Of course, they were convinced that Wu Yu was just trying to turn the situation around by pestering them endlessly. However, the person who was the angriest at the moment was not Hua Yunfeng, but Pu Deshuang. Damn it, you've lost. You've lost. It's equal to losing 1/3 of my supreme grade spiritual jades. I'm already in a very bad mood, but you're still acting shamelessly there. It's fine if you're yelling reasonably, but you're lying so easily exposed. What's the point of yelling then? Get lost. Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death on the spot. Wu Yu retreated with a flushed face and neck. Everyone around him was looking at him strangely. Even Duan Tianchong's face was burning hot. This was a great disgrace to them. The #1 expert of his sect had actually never fought with the demon race. Hey, shouldn't the most important thing now be thinking about the outcome of the battle? At the thought of the outcome, Duan Tianchong's face suddenly turned pale. I've lost for a while. I've already lost for a while. I've already lost for a while. What should I do next? I'm in a passive position. The second battle, the Battle of the Backbone. On the high platform, Pu Deshuang glared fiercely at the 7-star sect and shouted, Who from the 7-star sect is going to fight? Hurry up! On the other side, Yunyang had returned to his team. As he walked back, he shook his hand and put on a purple robe again. He still looked calm, graceful, and elegant. Before Yunyang could finish his return, Luo Dejiang had already strode out of the residence of 9 Supremes with his saber on his shoulder. His majestic figure seemed to shake the whole field with every step he took. Even though they could only see a small black dot tens of thousands of feet away, they could still feel his majestic aura. Phoenix Cry Sect. Senior brother Qi, who had just fought yesterday, had his expression change abruptly. A cold gleam flashed in his eyes as he gritted his teeth and said, Isn't that Luo Dajiang, the whetstone of the Demiurge Flawed 10? Gon Tianyan looked back at him and said nothing. Senior brother Qi thought for a moment, then suddenly turned and bowed. Uncle Master, is junior sister Jiang back? Chapter 1134. Gon Tianyan said faintly, Qi Lai, we've always seen what happened between you and Luo. You had your heart set on you, but the falling flowers have their hearts set on you. I believe you have sensed this a long time ago. There are many female disciples in Phoenix Cry Sect who like you. Sometimes, you have to be more open-minded and think less. Qi Lai closed his eyes, and his voice suddenly became dry and hoarse. Uncle Master, that's not what you said before. Gon Tianyan said faintly. The problem now is that Luo doesn't agree. Do you mean that whoever you like, she must be yours? How can there be such a saying? The Lord of Sacred Heart Palace still has an unmarried daughter. If you like that young lady, should the entire Phoenix Cry Sect help you snatch the bride, regardless of the consequences? Qi Lai's face was pale. I didn't mean that. It's just what? You're not allowed to mention this matter again. Ping Jinyue said sternly, Qi Lai, are you willing to watch your junior sister Jiang be unhappy for the rest of her life because of your own selfishness? Qi Lai only felt a surge of blood rush up from his heart. In an instant, his head was buzzing. For a moment, he saw stars, and his heart ached so much that he could not speak. What was going on? Why did Master and Uncle Master's attitudes change after just one battle? He couldn't figure it out, no matter how hard he tried. In fact, Qi Lai had discovered it too late. If he had asked before Yun Yang defeated Wu Yu, Gon Tianyan and Ping Jinyue's attitudes would have been much better. Or if Yun Yang had been defeated, their attitudes would still be different, and they would not have been so resolute. But the reality now was that Yun Yang had won, and it was a brilliant and magnificent victory. The situation was obvious now. Residents of Nine Supremes only needed to win 2 more matches to become a middle-class celestial luck banner sect. And Luo Dajiang was the 3rd most powerful person in Residents of Nine Supremes. He could speak for Residents of Nine Supremes. In terms of status alone, Jiang Luo was now inferior to him. Although Qi Lai was the leader of Phoenix Cry Sect's elite disciples, he was really not important enough in the current situation. If they messed up this marriage, then they would offend an entire middle-ranked sect. Moreover, it was a middle-ranked sect with limitless potential for development. For a sect like this, befriending this sect or becoming a sworn enemy, it went without saying which was more important. This debt, as long as one was human, they would settle it. Moreover, the other party was in love with each other, while the other party was only in one-sided love. It went without saying how to choose. Even if Luo Dajiang's current cultivation base is slightly weaker than yours, you will be able to defeat him. However, he is the number 3 figure of a middle-rank sect. And you, Qi Lai, what kind of figure do you have in our Phoenix Cry sect? Are you in the top 50? Yes, this was the reality, the naked reality, the most realistic reality, and also the helpless reality. When it came to family matters, it was better to go along with the brother's feelings than the sister-in-law's, not to mention matters that concerned the future of the sect. Of course, what was more beneficial had to be considered first. Many times, people's minds were really quite dark. Luo Dajiang stood majestically in the center of the field. He was tall and had long legs, with a broadsword on his shoulder. He looked up at the direction of the 7 Stars sect. Luo Dajiang of the Residents of Nine Supremes awaits your instruction. A majestic voice rang out leisurely, shaking the whole field. Duan Tianchong held the hand of a middle-aged man tightly, his eyes almost brimming with tears. Second Uncle Master, we must not lose the second round again. The man's face was solemn as he said, Rest assured, sect leader, we will win. Wu Yu came over and said, The opponent's overall strength is weaker than ours. Moreover, it is at least a level weaker, but its moves and techniques are all exquisite. You have to be steady and sure to win. Don't advance rashly, And don't give the opponent a chance to use his ingenious saber skills. If you get into a fight, remember to keep a certain distance and don't give the opponent a chance. This was the conclusion of Wu Yu's experience in the battle with Yun Yang. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that he had lost unjustly just now. His mystical chi cultivation base was obviously much deeper than his opponent's, and if it were not for the divine weapon in his hand, he might have won a long time ago. Even in the end, if he had not been too close to Yun Yang, how could his center of gravity be shifted by the opponent's trick? If he had not made that mistake, even if Yun Yang had recovered 3 or 4 more times, he would have been able to outlast him. This was the most realistic opinion from his own experience. I'll remember it. Don't worry, senior brother Wu. Having said that, the man glided down the stage and rushed to the battlefield. 7-star sect, Lang Yongxing. Please, please. As soon as the words left his lips, both men charged at the same time, launching their first wave of attacks. Luo Dajiang's eyes glowed brightly at the beginning of the battle. His mystical chi was instantly mustered to its limit, overflowing with mystical chi, causing the formation around him to rise in mist as he launched an aggressive attack. And in the instant before the two of them clashed, Luo Dajiang's aura increased by 30%. It turned out that in the instant he had advanced, he had burned his life force to the maximum in exchange for a power that surpassed his own limits. This battle concerned the success or failure of his sect's advancement, so he must not lose. But the person in front of me has a cultivation base and combat strength above mine. I can't defeat him with my true ability. Then I'll fight with my life. I'll give it a try with my life. Luo Dajiang let out a ferocious roar and leaped into the air. The saber in his hand was like a shadow in the air, flashing and slashing down with unprecedented ferocity. This strike was Luo Dajiang's ultimate strike that surpassed his own limits, an unprecedented and extreme strike. Lang Yongxing, who had come to fight the 7-star sect, looked cultured and elegant, but he held a large axe in his hand. Facing Luo Dajiang's ferocious attack, he met it head-on without dodging or evading, counterattacking like a gale sweeping away fallen leaves. Clang! The clash between the two men was completely different from the previous probing matches between their opponents. Lang Yongxing had used more than 90% of his strength, while Luo Dajiang had used 120% of his mystical chi. Yes, 120% of his mystical chi that surpassed his own limits, and that was the power of burning his life force. A deafening explosion shook the entire audience. Luo Dajiang's saber was completely shattered into pieces, and the webbing between his thumb and forefinger was bleeding profusely. His opponent's condition was not good either. First, his body trembled violently, and a large crack appeared on his axe. However, his opponent's reaction was lightning fast, and he immediately retreated, dispersing the aftershock of the impact. However, Luo Dajiang's response was beyond everyone's expectation. In the first exchange of blows, he was at a disadvantage. Even his weapon had been destroyed, but he didn't retreat even half a step. As he spurted out a mouthful of blood mixed with some fragments of his internal organs, instead of retreating, he leaped forward like a tiger and forcibly embraced Lang Yongxing with his iron-like arms. Remember the mobile version of the website. Chapter 256. Battle. The difference between the front and the back. Page 1/1. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 1135. You're courting death. Lang Yongxing bellowed furiously. As a martial artist and a profound cultivator whose cultivation base was far above his opponent's, he had countless ways to shatter his opponent's fighting style. It was easy for him to get rid of the current shackles, and he only needed a moment to react. It was a pity that he did not have the time to react. The next moment, Luo Dajiang grinned hideously and said, "Let's do it together." Then, with a deafening explosion, another mushroom cloud rose into the air. Luo Dajiang had chosen to self-destruct at the first moment. Actually, if one thought about it carefully, Luo Dajiang's choice wasn't that hard to imagine. Before he went to battle, he already knew that his true strength was inferior to his opponent's. In fact, it wasn't just a little bit inferior. Furthermore, that clash had proven this fact. He had used his life to stimulate the ultimate power of his body and went all out, but he still could not gain the upper hand. If he forced himself to fight, he would never be the opponent's match. Perhaps, It would not take long for him to suffer a crushing defeat. In that case, he would not leave any room for maneuver. Taking advantage of the gap when his opponent retreated, he would grab him and self-destruct immediately. He did not seek to win, but to perish together with his opponent and fight for a draw. And then he succeeded. Luo Dajiang's idea, in hindsight, was completely logical and could be considered the best strategy. However, it was something that no one had expected just now. Such a fighting style had never appeared in the tens of thousands of years of the Celestial Luck Banner battle, and it could be said to be a pioneer in the Celestial Luck Banner battle. Was it not child's play to self-destruct when one did not even know the opponent's strength? But that was exactly what happened now. Luo Dajiang had self-destructed in the blink of an eye. Yun Yang's expression remained unchanged, and his eyes were fixed on the field. Duan Tianchong, on the other hand, screamed and stood up, his face sallow. Luo Dajiang had planned to fight for a draw by self-destructing before he entered the field, but Lang Yongxing had planned to win steadily and surely. Now the Seven-Star sect desperately needed a win to turn the tables, but this result was completely different from their pre-battle preparations. Now, it all depended on whether Lang Yongxing could withstand the opponent's extreme self-destruction. Duan Tianchong's heart was ice-cold. Clearly, he did not think that Lang Yongxing would be able to withstand the other party's self-detonation. After all, Lang Yongxing had self-detonated while being in someone's embrace. How could that be good? Anyone could see that Luo Dajiang was doing it while he was in his strongest state. The momentum, power, and the extreme distance between the two of them, the power that Lang Yongxing had to bear was even greater and more direct than Chu Xiaofeng's. There was no room for him to turn the situation around. The entire battleground was covered in dust and rocks. The air billowed, causing all the spectator stands to shake. Almost everyone present was covered in dust and dirt. After a long while, the smoke and dust gradually dispersed, and the field of vision gradually became clear again. In the arena, Luo Dajiang was nowhere to be found. This was understandable. It would be strange if the person involved could still exist after the self-detonation. The only problem was Lang Yongxing. Far away from the center of the explosion, there was a body with no arms and legs, and no head. It was dripping with blood and flesh. It looked as if it had been tossed into the wilderness and then bitten by wild wolves and dogs for a long time. Everyone's mind went blank from the shock. The death was too tragic. It was directly torn apart by 5 horses. Swoosh! In mid-air, something fell down. The crowd looked up and saw a small black dot falling from mid-air. When it got closer, they could see that it was a head. When it got closer, they could tell that it was Lang Yongxing's head. With a bang, Lang Yongxing's head hit the ground, bounced about 10 feet up like a rubber ball, and then fell down again, bouncing on the ground, looking very lively. Then, it rolled around, turned around and stopped moving. Puff! In the main stand, Pu Deshuang spurted out a mouthful of blood and said in an extremely strange tone, "The second fight, the fight between the backbone forces, is a draw." Everyone was dumbfounded. A draw? Yes, it was a draw. Both sides had perished together. Both of them were dead. If it wasn't a tie, what else could it be? Duan Tianchong slumped into his chair, his face ashen. A draw. It was a tie again. We were supposed to win this round. How did it end up as a tie? Yun Yang, on the other hand, quietly heaved a sigh of relief. A draw. This was the best result. Yun Yang was ready to give up this fight, because Xueqi and the others were no match for a third-grade Saint King cultivator with their real ability. In this battle, they deserved to lose. There was nothing to be said about it. It was wishful thinking to win this fight. There was no hope at all. But now, the tie was a complete and unexpected surprise. After a long time, Junior Sister Yu from Daluo sect was the first to exclaim, "So heroic! So manly! So heroic! So manly! Why can't I meet such a manly man?" She repeated it several times, her tone becoming more and more sorrowful. However, from her tone, it was obvious that she was going to fall in love with someone else. Xueqi and the rest subconsciously stole a glance at Yun Yang. Did this mean that they had been cuckolded in a different sense? Yun Yang looked calm on the surface, but he was cursing inwardly. F***ck, since the beginning of the Tianxian continent, when have I ever had my limelight stolen like this? Although it's not wrong, I don't feel aggrieved. After 2 rounds of fights, residents of 9 Supremes had won 1 match in the fight of the Pinnacle, and they had a draw in the fight of the Backbone. It could be said that they had the upper hand. The opponent's so-called 3 matches had now become a joke, because the final result was only a draw in the 3rd match, changing the score to 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Pu Deshuang glanced at Hua Yunfeng, then at him again, and then at him again. The look in his eyes grew more and more indignant. I knew something was wrong. I just felt something was wrong. Now it seems that I've been tricked. This old man's previous actions were all a trap. His acting skills are too good. Hua Yunfeng looked at him innocently. Why are you looking at me? Aren't you going to preside over the follow-up formation? Can't you have a little sense of responsibility? That's your duty, don't you know? Pu Deshuang's face was dark. He opened his mouth, showing his white teeth, and opened and closed it at Hua Yunfeng. Hua Yunfeng sighed emotionally and said, the battle just now was too heroic. So manly. Oh, so heroic. So manly. Remember the mobile version of the website. Chapter 257. Heroic so manly. So manly. Page 1/1. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 1136. Pu Deshuang took a deep breath, stretched out his finger, and pointed at Hua Yunfeng's face a few times before he said word by word, Hua Yunfeng. Hua Yunfeng put on a big smile and said, Brother Pu, the bet between us is just a small matter. We'd better get down to business now. He. The battle was not over yet. Who would win and who would lose was still up in the air. Why are you so anxious now, Brother Pu? The 7 Stars sect is known to be invincible in the Battle of Formations. The 3rd round is a Battle of Formations, so we can definitely turn the tables. Once we turn the tables, both sides will be tied, and there are still the 4th and 5th rounds. You still have a chance. Besides, the 7 Star sect is an old sect with a profound foundation. I'm a little worried that we will lose miserably. Pu Deshuang grunted. He had thought so at first. But now that Hua Yunfeng said it, he could not help but feel even worse. F***CK. Am I going to lose this battle of formations as well? Hua Yunfeng, you cunning old fox. Rogues are not scary, but rogues who know how to act are too F***king scary. The 3rd round, the Battle of Formations. Pu Deshuang stomped his feet and roared with a majestic voice. He vented all of his frustrations with this roar. The whole 5-layered mountain trembled. Brother Pu, you have a great cultivation base. What a great cultivation base. Hua Yunfeng gave him a thumbs up and continued to flatter him. Your cultivation base is truly world-shaking. The 3rd round, the Battle of Formations, began as scheduled. The 7 Star sect's 7 Stars Converge array was almost instantaneously set up, waiting in the field. Their determination to win was completely obvious. This was the magical treasure of the 7 Star sect, so naturally, they were full of confidence. In any case, there would be no mistake. The residents of 9 Supremes, on the other hand, was still considering, probably a little hesitant about this round of battles. Unlike Hua Yunfeng, who was very confident in the residents of 9 Supremes' formation, Yunyang was really a little uncertain now. After pondering for a long time, he finally said in a deep voice, Jia stays here. The other 9 will set up the 9 Supremes Earth formation. Sun Mingxiu will be in the center to preside over the formation, while Bai Yexing, Hu Xiaofan, and Yun Xiuxin will be in charge of the formation from 3 sides. The rest of you, operate the formation strictly according to the formation, and don't be greedy. As the name suggested, the 9 Supremes formation was completely different from the 9 Peaks formation that was used in the battle for lower-class celestial luck banners. The Great 9 Supremes formation was a formation that originally belonged to Yutong's 9 Supremes and was derived from the 9 Heavens domain. Not only was it powerful, but it also encompassed the operation of various forms. As for the 9 Supreme Earth Elemental formations, they were known for their powerful defensive abilities. Yunyang had made up his mind. Establishing an invincible position in this battle was his top priority. The main reason Yunyang made such a decision was that he felt that the 7 disciples from 7 Star sect were much stronger than the 10 disciples from residents of 9 Supremes in terms of individual cultivation base. In the face of such a huge gap, Yunyang had to be on guard. The results of the first two matches had exceeded his expectations, so he did not have to win the third match, and it was enough for him to get a draw. After all, the following match of disciples was another sure win match, and the final victory was already within his grasp. Fight! At Xueqi's order, 9 people landed in the field like 9 white clouds. Each of them was holding a long sword, and each of them was dressed in fair skin and looked very attractive. On the high platform, Hua Yunfeng's gaze suddenly changed a little, and an inexplicable suspicion rose in his heart. The formation residence of 9 Supremes has set up this time seems to be a little different from the last one. After the 9 members of the residence of 9 Supremes landed on the ground, they did not move anymore. They stood in their respective positions like 9 clay sculptures, staring quietly at the 7 stars battle formation in front of them as if they were waiting for the enemy to attack. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. If they move, I won't move either. The 2 formations were in a stalemate for a long time, but still, no one made the first move. The 7 disciples of 7 stars sect on the opposite side were a little embarrassed by the situation. We've come out and set up the formation for a long time, waiting for the enemy to attack, but the enemy did not move and just stood there. What should we do? The 7 stars formation of 7 stars sect focused on stopping the enemy by remaining still and striking later to gain the upper hand. It was indeed a rare technique to use 7 people to defend against an incoming attack, and then switch to the 7 stars transformation to launch a joint attack. However, taking the initiative to attack was not their strong point. Now that the enemy did not take the initiative to attack, they naturally felt a little uncomfortable. As for the disciples of residents of 9 Supremes, their thinking was much simpler. Master has just solemnly instructed us to act according to the plan, and not to move if the enemy does not move. Anyway, we will never take the initiative to attack. If anyone messes up the plan and causes them to fail in their advancement, the look given to them by their fellow disciples would be enough to make them commit suicide out of shame, not to mention the punishment from their master. In any case, if you don't move, we won't move. If the stalemate continues until no one moves, it will be a draw. We are not afraid of a draw, and we like it very much. After a long while, when neither side took the initiative to move, the disciples of 7 stars sect were so angry that their mouths were twisted. The 7 stars formation of 7 stars sect was named after the word formation, and its main purpose was to stop the enemy from taking the initiative to attack. When attacked by the enemy, they would usually choose to encircle the enemy in the formation, so that the power of the 7 stars formation could be fully exerted. This was the main reason why 7 stars sect could remain undefeated and in an invincible position in the formation battle. A draw was also an undefeated position. But now, what the 7 stars sect needed was a victory, so they desperately hoped that the enemy would attack. However, his opponent didn't move. He didn't move at all. In the history of previous battles, 7 stars sect had never encountered such a situation. Come on, challengers of residents of 9 Supremes, you are here to challenge us, and you have made it clear in advance, but why are you not attacking? Why don't you move? Don't you want to challenge us? Don't you want to win? The disciple in charge of the formation could not help but shout angrily. Xueqi raised her chin and said, "Then why don't you move? It should be you who are eager to win now, isn't it? It should be you who are going to attack us, isn't it?" The 7 stars sect disciple bellowed, "This is outrageous. You are the challengers, but you don't attack. What kind of logic is this?" Hu Xiaofen laughed and said, "What kind of logic is this? There is a law, and there is a way to break it. We don't attack, and you don't fight. Let's just stay in this stalemate. It seems that this battle will end in a draw. We have no objection to this, and we are happy to see it happen." The 7 disciples of 7 stars sect were so angry that their noses twitched. "You are indeed happy to accept a draw because you have won one more match. But we can't accept it, because we need this victory." Both sides confronted each other quietly for a while, but still, neither side made the first move. At this time, laughter finally came from the audience stand. Anyone from the sects with middle-class celestial luck banners was a seasoned fighter, but no one had ever seen such a strange situation. Both sides stood still as soon as they entered the arena, and the situation fell into an unexpected stalemate. However, after a burst of laughter, the higher-ups of the sects, except for those from 7 stars sect, felt a chill in their hearts, and their eyes lit up. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.